Welcome back to the Insider Knowledge podcast, hosted by Drisoth, BaJAtak, and Aikado, our illustrious most recent seasonal winner. Or now they're
Let's
open.
go.
Let's go. Back to back, Poggies. The
Back
first player
back
to
to
win
back.
both Standard and Eternal. Congrats, Aikado. Even though, of course, it's there's pity that there's nothing for that, but, congrats, I guess.
Hey, it's the clout, you know?
We don't
A
e-
win's a win. I've won 2 opens, I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it.
we don't even have meta breakdown for NA. Like no one uploaded the NA one. So
Oh, because it was
What
so
the hell?
free. Oh, okay, I get it.
Well, you guys were out there losing to fucking Monoshirima, so, I don't know what you're talking about, my guy.
Yeah. But okay, you were losing it at 2-2, and you almost you almost lost to Anijin that you thought you were dead, I don't
Yeah,
think that guy.
we could talk about my red a little bit later. Do we wanna chat about meta real quick?
I mean, it's real
Uh,
fast, so I think we should start with it. But yeah, Galio Elder Dragon Morgana still the best deck. The other two hosts unreasonably slandered that Lurk is apparently a counter to this deck. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't
yeah.
know about that, but I guess maybe. I guess if you go like the 3D version of it, like the
I
Mihira, maybe. I
I
guess.
I do think like Lurk does just kind of take a dump on Demacia and kind of always has. So
Mhm.
I do believe that Lurk beats this deck.
Yeah, but isn't the issue okay, so to beat this deck, you have to be playing Shadow Isles, or you have to be playing some tier 3 bullshit.
Yeah, I
Isn't that
mean,
kind of the
to be
Yeah.
clear, Lurk beating this deck does not help this situation, but I
Yeah.
do suppose you could play Lurk.
Yeah. No, the Scally Morgana deck, it's pretty okay, is what I'll
It's
say.
pretty
It's
good.
pretty
Yeah.
okay.
It doesn't have that good numbers anymore, but it's because like if you look at the meta, basically second, third, fourth, and fifth deck try to counter it
Yeah.
currently. Like they
Uh,
try to beat it. If things like Anijin and Timo Yume are like 50-50 to it, like on stats. So like some people think it's a good matchup. But it's so crazy that the war meta just tries to counter it because like, let's be honest, the meta is still 10% of the meta. If you want to climb, you need to be ready for this deck, right? And be able to beat it. And yeah, it's crazy to me that this deck didn't get hotfix, and it's crazy to me that probably gonna have 3 more weeks of this deck
I
because
mean,
patch is in 3 weeks.
so I'm not going to push back on the fact that this deck is not the most fun to have around, and I'd really prefer it if it got like gutted. But um, I don't know. It does kind of feel like people complaining about like a random Eternal meta being bad, and it's like, okay, the Eternal meta that like isn't competitively relevant sucks ass. I'm not going to say it's a good thing, but like I'm not too bent out of shape about it. So
Yeah, but it of
Uh,
course like sucks. Like we don't have like competitive because yeah, we have 3 weeks that like basically do nothing. And, like when you want to play, I'm Mogwai was speaking about it. Like he wants to have fun, and like then he meets this, and he's just gonna win into it. Like
I mean,
I would just argue that like I do believe that there should have been
okay.
hotfix on this deck because like it had crazy numbers since 28th of December
I
when I tweeted
will,
about it. Like the deck
yeah,
is supposed to get hotfix. I think like
I
this is the
will, I will kind of admit and agree that like I do think there's a problem here. I just would put it more on the fact that like Riot is taking this like huge break when like people are supposedly still engaging with their game. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want to sit there and say that like no Christmas breaks for anyone, but it does seem a little absurd when it's like you see Galio Elder Dragon Morgana. I don't think anyone would really complain if you phoned in some nerfs for this deck and you were like, I mean, who the fuck knows? Like Morgana loses a point of each stat. Hopefully that fixes the problem. And you're just like,
oh, don't hit Morgana. Hit fucking but no, I do think I do think there is a pain point around Riot's big December break, especially because I mean, I think it's a good thing that they take the break. I think that the workers deserve a break, especially around holidays. I'm happy with Riot for taking the break. The issue is that their other games don't get impacted as much as we do. We
Mhm.
kind of get fucking shafted, and TFT is still getting patches. League is still getting patches. If we did get a hot fix, like I'm not saying that we should have gotten a hot fix 100%. I wouldn't have been upset. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, it definitely feels a little bit bad to hop on ladder. Um, but yeah.
Yeah,
also
I
like
mean,
it's been December break, right? Like it's half of January, even more than like it's like the thing, yeah, like they got 2 hotfixes already, for example. So like
I mean,
I would just argue that make small adjustment to this deck, like so it's like not that miserable to play in off season, basically, right? So
yeah,
that's
I've
the type
definitely
of deck.
wanted in the past for them to just kind of do like pressure relieving nerfs where it's like, okay, we see this deck is like wildly overperforming. We're gonna spend some time to figure out how exactly we want to nerf it, but for a little while we can like make 3/4 Vayne a 3/3 and like we don't have to do any translation work, we don't have to do anything weird. We'll just take
Just
off
make
a point of
momentous
health and
change,
like
just momentous
hope
should
that
say be like,
helps.
okay, we're gonna look at it in the upcoming patch in 3 weeks, right? That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
Yeah, like
it's not so much the like momentous thing where it says like we're going to revisit this. It's the fact that you're willing to like just throw something out and just be like, we nerfed a stat because hopefully that'll help the situation. I mean, maybe it won't fix it, but it at least helps.
Yeah, just like ship, like Galio to 13 mana or something. And then like it'll be like, hey, we'll take a peek at it next patch. You know.
based. Yeah. It's so crazy to me. Like people are like, man, finally Galio's meta, and I'm like, no, like, bro,
Yeah,
Galio's been meta like 6 months now. Like, it's
I don't know.
It's the Poro King thing, right? I think that some people just don't engage at all with like anything resembling the tournament meta. And they
Yeah.
like, I don't know, they see like the way that a champion releases, and in their mind, their champion is like stuck in that state no matter what. Like even if there's like a tier 0 Udyr deck, people will still be like, but it's Udyr though. It's kind of cool that there's Udyr, playable.
I don't
And it's
know.
like,
Like,
okay, even if we had 6 months of it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It also seems to like go the other direction where like Udyr, people will just like firmly argue that Udyr is like a very good champion. And it's like Udyr's been around for like 2 years. That man has seen Stone Zero play. Like
Okay,
Formidables?
Awesome.
he was in the Formidables deck
In the
before he got
Formidable,
cut for Garen. But until then, he was in the Formidables
yeah,
deck.
in Formidables that was incredibly champion agnostic and would play like a wet slice of bread as a champion
You're
because
playing
it didn't have
Garen.
anything better. Yeah, a wet slice of bread. Like I don't know why are you repeating me by it. That deck was willing to play up to 2 copies of Udyr, and it's like that is the most mediocre success you could possibly tell me. Like Azir being in Vaults of Helia to discount the Ascended card sounds more successful than this shit. So
I thought it was actually good there because like you could have blocked and then like bots killed it, right? Even though I liked more Veigar back in the time, but
yeah, I mean,
So true, Vesti, so true.
Azir was fine in that deck, but like,
So you could play Udyr and then block with Udyr, and he gives you a free stance. I
Okay,
mean,
I would argue that at some point Udyr was pretty good, honestly, because there was a lot of mid range, and Udyr was amazing in mid range. Because if you give regeneration to some big
that's
build
beside the
with
point.
formidable, like it's pretty powerful. So.
Udyr's beside the point. I do agree, though, that it is funny that it seems like people haven't realized that Gallia's been pretty good for a while. But yeah, like this Formidables deck, like it is running new cards in it, but it's also kind of like 80% of a deck that was very good. For the last like 3 months.
Yeah, it got the top end that it missed, I think. Like we were playing like, things like Jarvan, right, with the Garen as mentioned, and it just got the top end with the other dragon package, right, and that just made it over the push. Also, the 2 mana spell is crazy powerful.
Yeah, just being able to tax out your opponent's mana mid game. You just kind of cheat and like are
it's
ahead
0
on
mana.
mana.
It's 0 mana +2/+2. Like that's
Yeah.
just the card. Like it's 0 mana +2/+2. Like that's all it.
I mean, this card, like, as soon as it's no longer just like a random health buff and it's like straight up buffing power as well, because Formidable, obviously, this card gets pretty messed up pretty fast. So
Yeah, magical fettering is really good, and like it being 0 mana like doesn't really speak to it because like it's not 0 mana. It takes away 2 of your opponent's mana, which is better for you because you just want your opponent to do nothing in like their like mid game turns, right? Because all the units that you're playing down have challenger. They're bigger than your opponents. They trade better. So if you're like fucking up their mana, like you just get to your like turn 6 plays and turn 7 plays much stronger. It's very, very good.
yeah.
You know what? If they wanted to just print 0 mana plus 2 health, I would prefer that over magical fettering. Fuck it, take the 2
Yeah,
health.
it would be better effective for some decks. For some, of course, not, but that don't care like, about spells because I think very often like some people just try to too much push for spells and like be able to play them. I think that's a big mistake that people do. Like
I
sometimes
think
they
people are fucking. Some people get way too up in their shit, and they're like, I refuse to play the suppression. I don't play any spells. I'm not gonna play any suppressions. And then this weird thing happens where opponent plays Morgana,
Mhm.
and you're like, oh fuck, wait,
Now
I
I have
have
to
to
play
play the
spells. Yeah.
suppression.
Yeah, I find that's also like the second part of it, but yeah, I think that's like two extremes,
Um,
right? That some people play too much early and it's sometimes too late, right? And that's something that
yeah. I
then
mean,
makes the also this deck a little bit stronger.
I don't know. There was definitely like you had a tweet Aikado that was like you just have to play suppression first, and I had like a really funny Jacksorn game where I just didn't play suppression and win, and it was like,
Mhm.
man, people were pissed, and they were like, look at this like dumb spell slinging, and it's like it's a funny screenshot. Like 99% of the time, you just have to play suppression because like they'll give you a spell you have to play. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for like the shackles, you could probably create decks that could just like sit on a suppression and refuse to play it. But I mean, okay, you're playing Jaxor and they shackle your Ornn, and it's like, okay, I have to play this now.
Well, yeah, and even then, like having a suppression like face up in hand means you never have to play around combat tricks. You never have to play around anything, right? Like it's
Mhm.
still,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, this deck pretty good. Counters to it, Mordekaiser, pretty okay.
Mhm.
Like I think Mordekaiser is like one of the better decks of the format. Mordekaiser Morgana specifically is pretty good. I think the Viego deck has some really stupid interactions, but is not very good overall. I really hope that they change the interactions because Viego's seeing himself die and getting progress off of like the deathless version of him is really weird and shouldn't be a thing. Um,
It's weird.
but
Like about this internet, what they like tweeted, so like it's kind of weird. Also,
Yeah,
Battlewire.
I don't know if
Yeah.
they tweeted it. I know that I reported it during Worlds testing, and I was like, "This is really fucked up. I'm pretty sure this isn't intended." And then they got back to me, and they're like, "No, this is how it's supposed to work." And I'm like, "That's fucking crazy."
But that's thing. The version of the Vega is that like it beats Mirror and it beats Galio, so like it's maybe that good, but I think overall the deck just bad.
Yeah, but if
Just
we
like
scroll it all, I think it has a 45% win rate,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Like, yeah, it's bad
Yeah.
deck. Like, but it beats the two best decks, right? Right. So that's maybe like selling point of it. But I do like the Morgana Mordekaiser much more. So I think the deck is pretty fun. It does funny things and it's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more
Um.
interesting than any other Galio deck we've seen. I'll give it that.
uh, Yeah.
Yeah.
Elder Dragon in and of itself like makes decks a little bit more interesting. You know, Elder Dragon's cool.
I do agree.
I mean, on the comment from Cross Hunter of like, how do you make Morgana Mordekaiser mirrors more interesting? I'm pretty sure level 1 Mordekaiser just needs to not resurrect stuff because this like no one's even like caring to level Mordekaiser on time because like why?
Well, okay. Mordekaiser Morgana mirrors are cringe because they're like Mordekaiser checks, and then they're like mana guide checks, and then they're like rekindler checks, right? Like
Mhm.
there's definitely levels of cringe
Yeah.
in these mirrors. But if at any point both players have the same amount of resources, these mirrors are incredibly deep, and I think that like
Yeah.
they're incredibly skill intensive. Like
About the
it's
deck is
very
very
interesting.
Over
I
the deck, I
Um,
think like people misplay it so much. I think like the deck is so hard to play when you don't have the exact nuts, right? But when you don't have exact nuts, like seeing some lines and like doing the plays, like this deck is so interesting, and I see so many people misplay it. Like we saw it at Worlds, and like even after that, I saw so many people misplay with this deck.
Yeah, I definitely think like the mirrors are pretty good if people are dealt like comparable hands. The problem is like
yeah.
even just saying like both players have to draw Mordekaiser, you're at like 60% of games are real and 40% are fake because someone's just missing Mordekaiser. And then like given that both people have Mordekaiser, both people have to have a Rekindler or the game just becomes fake again. It's like you end up with this cascade where like Halberd matters, drawing like lots of copies of 2 mana Slay effects matters, and you just end up in a situation where it's like, okay, well, like we've gotten to a point where 15% of games are real and like 85% of the mirrors just like auto win for one player.
I don't know if they're actually auto win. Like I've definitely won ones, you know, without Mordekaiser. I've definitely won ones without Rekindler. Um, I just think that there's a lot of play with this deck, especially in the mirror on both sides. And I think it's pretty. I don't know. I think it's not as discovered as it could be. It reminds me of do you guys remember the fucking Kane Aatrox mirror? And the Kane Aatrox mirror was like really fucking cringe, but actually it was kind of like super fucking deep, and like it got to the point where we're like straight keeping like Furious Wielder because this is the card that
Yeah.
matters in the matchup. Um
Mhm.
I think there's like a lot of interesting things in this mirror, like even if it is cringe a lot of the time.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Anyway, yeah, I talking about that deck. I ended up playing in an open this last weekend. I don't know about you guys. Um, I ended up bringing a lineup that looked very similar to my Worlds lineup, perhaps even like 117 out of 120 cards for my Worlds lineup. I ran back. I brought Mordekaiser Morgana. I brought Nora Elder Dragon, and I brought Seraphine Sat. And weirdly enough, this meta becomes a lot more playable when you decide to just ban Galio. And by playable, I mean I ended up winning the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little interesting, like how little. I mean, Galio Elder Dragon Morgana obviously came out, but like other than that, like the meta just hasn't changed. Like,
Yeah.
I
and like
think people have changed what they're playing. Like I think that a lot of people are like on board with like, yeah, this Fizz Yumi deck's really fucking good. But yeah, the meta itself, like it shifted a little bit, not a
Yeah,
ton,
like
but a
Vega,
little
we
bit.
also got Vega, right? We got after Gala, we got also Vega, but like there was like the two big changes. And like
yeah,
definitely, yeah, some people changed the decks that they played.
I
Um,
mean, the one big thing is like as much as Galio does matter for like ladder meta in tournaments, like this deck is a lot harder to justify because like yeah, you get one busted deck, but like you put your Elder Dragon and your Morgana in the same pile,
yeah,
and you said
that's
you
what I
can't
did.
play Mordekaiser because you can't really play Mordekaiser without Morgana, and it's like
That's what I did in my open, right? I had pretty good run, like I made top 16, something like that. And yeah, I played Galio Garen without a dragon, and then I was able to play Morgana Mordekaiser as well. That was something I think kind of interesting for open. I just played the three best decks. I also added Timo Yumi into the lineup. Yeah,
You're
I
playing
think
Timo
that
Yumi or Fizz Yumi?
Timo Yumi was playing.
Okay.
I don't like that much of Fizime. I think it's very good if you, for example, targeting things like Timo Yumi because it's destroy the mirror as well, but it doesn't do that good into the Galio, I think. Even though it does pretty well as well, I guess. But I didn't like it over in other things. So
I
I don't
think
like that much
That's
the
fair.
deck
I think
myself.
Timo Yumi is considerably better than Fizz Yumi into Galio because you don't just like get absolutely bent over by Mage Seeker Jr. So
Into Galio, yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of other matchups. It just kind of depends on if you're banning Galio or not.
yeah,
I know
I,
that
I
my
was
entire
some
weekend,
fun to play into it. Yeah.
I know my entire weekend I was worried about Fizz Yumi. I'm playing Nora Elder Dragon and Seraphine, so
yeah.
I'm very much concerned about Fizz Yumi. I had to grind out a lot of Fizz Yumi players and just eat every single card out of their hand until eventually Fizz dies. But it was pretty scary in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, I think you
Mhm.
could go with. I think you can justify either Fizumi or Timo Yumi depending on lineups, but either
Did you
one's
play this
fine.
weekend, Drisoth?
I did not. Um, I think I probably would have enjoyed it more than I thought I was. I was expecting to see like just tons and tons of Galio, and I was like, I'm not interested in just playing a
Just
for
ban
fun
it,
open if
bro.
I'm gonna play a shit ton of Galio.
Just
Um,
ban it, homie. That's
Also, I
what
didn't
it's
met
there
that
for.
much. Yeah.
I
Also, I
think I
didn't
would have
met that
had
much.
fun. I wish I had played, but um, I did not.
Yeah,
So
It was
that's
fun.
fair.
It was interesting to see like a lot of streamers being like off delay, right? It was very interesting to see that way. Like everyone coming in the chat and like being like delay. There's none. And
Yeah. Play
like
with no delay. Drizoth's been out here playing with no delay.
that's a good
He's
yeah,
point.
been
Yeah.
qualified for Worlds for
But
how
there was like
long?
everyone, right? It was not only me,
yeah.
you. It was also Majin. It was like uh, it was also like Mogwai was also playing, right? So like it was cool experience, I think.
I
So
think more people could, and I don't know. It's interesting with like Majin or Aikado would be the other example of like they clearly want to do well, but they're also concerned about the quality of content they're producing very directly. I think you could probably get away with doing day one without delay, but
mm,
I think that you could. Nah,
no,
I mean
like
you're
the
gonna end
issue
up
is that the people fucking snipe me and
yeah.
people fucking ghost me on ladder, and there's zero stakes on ladder, right?
yeah,
Like in the open, there's no fucking
there
shot.
are
I'm
worse in
not
lane.
eating,
Yeah,
or
like
people just dodging me, right?
Yeah.
If someone
yeah.
has like a matchup that's not good into me, and then they're just like straight gonna dodge me. I don't think it's doable.
Yeah, I do. By the way, do think that the dodging is a bigger issue than like stream typing. I don't think there are many people that would just like go and see your
I
hand.
mean, I don't think it
But I
would.
think like a lot of people would be like, okay, Aikado's screwing up. My lineup is bad into him. I'm gonna do you now, and like that's something that of course also takes off the percentage points for Aikado.
I mean, the what's it called? The stream sniping thing is going to be really unfortunate because like you're going to end up in a situation where like I don't know, the Cup situation is probably like the clearest cut example where like Cup's name comes up in chat. He says he wasn't looking, and like you're just stuck. What do you do?
Yeah.
And it's just like a miserable experience and is really, really bad, and there's no good outcome. So
So I don't think that much gain like that you play off the. It's like of course the stream is a bit better. You have like better interaction with their chat and stuff, but like overall like it's kind of whatever. And like it's just making the experience much better for the player. I think.
It just kind of depends. I think that if I were like a smaller streamer, I would almost certainly do it without delay, just because I think having like that chat interaction is pretty important. I'm pretty lucky in that, when I do stream tournaments, my chat's usually able to entertain themselves,
Yeah.
and talk with each other, and I think that that's pretty valuable. And anyone bigger than me obviously has that. But it's really hard because you very much like, even if you don't get sniped or anything, and you don't get ghosted, anytime that something weird happens, you're gonna be sitting there in the back of your head. You're gonna be like, "This motherfucker might be ghosting me," and then like it's just not worth it.
Yeah, you
I
might get like
enjoyed playing the
fired.
tournament
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
no delay. I very much enjoyed it because I love chat interaction. But yeah, I mean, like even day two, by the time second round happened, like I was completely ignoring chat anyway. It was just
Yeah.
like I was on a delay. But,
Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, what are your thoughts about the meta? Do you like it? Um, what are your thoughts about it?
I
I mean,
think that the meta becomes a lot more fun when you can ban Galio. Like when you can ban Galio, like you can play pretty fun shit. Like we're in a meta where like I'm able to play, a Seraphine deck, a Nora Broadmain deck, and like this Mordekaiser Morgana deck, which is like just a really fun combo deck, right? Like I'm playing three decks that I enjoy.
Mhm.
Which is why I ran back my lineup. I think that my lineup got significantly worse. Like Worlds lineup, I think this was like like a 9 out of 10 lineup. And then I think this last weekend it was like a 7.5 out of 10 lineup, and I still liked it. And because I liked it, I think I did well with it. But
yeah.
I,
Also,
I do enjoy the decks that I'm able to play in the tournament format.
Yeah, that's
the
something that like definitely comes in play. Like if you enjoy the decks, right? Especially in like for a fun tournament as well. That like also you played a lot on ladder, right? That also gives you then like also some matchup knowledge and stuff. So yeah, makes sense.
yeah, the tournament meta seems like I don't know, mildly good. I do think there's like some real frustration with like the recent expansion champions just being like distinctly better than almost everything else in
Mhm.
the format. There's like Mordekaiser, Morgana, and Elder Dragon, and then there's like a couple of other champions that can hang with these three, and you're pretty much trying to play two, maybe even like you're pretty much always playing one of these new champions, and you're pretty much always playing um, two decks with new champions, sometimes three decks with new champions, trying to play like double new champion decks. I don't know. I think there's some like valid criticism there, but I'd rather have this than like Heart of the Huntress, which was just like
Yeah.
depressing.
But
I
we
mean,
still have
I
like old
definitely
decks, right? We still have old decks too.
Yeah, I definitely brought all three new champions. And I think most people should have brought at least two, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
basically everyone should have had an Elder Dragon deck in their lineup, and I think you probably should have found a way to fit Morgana into your lineup.
Yeah.
Um,
I think Mordekaiser is a lot more narrow than the other two, and so like
yeah.
you might draw Mordekaiser, but like I think it was just a mistake if you didn't have Elder Dragon and Morgana in your lineup.
No,
So
definitely agree.
I
But
was
over the
genuinely
meta,
surprised when I looked at the stats, and I'm like, there weren't at least 60 people with Elder Dragon? 51?
yeah.
Hello?
I mean, this is
Yeah.
EMEA, APAC. I'm on a different page. APAC had
48.
48 and 47. Yeah, like I don't know. Elder Dragon definitely should have been like probably over 60 to be honest, because like
Mhm.
at least Morgana like has some styles of decks that you have to play if you want to play Morgana. You have to be playing like a stall out Targon deck. You have to be playing a Demacia beatdown deck. But like that's a pretty wide range, but you have to be playing one of those styles. Elder Dragon, like, dude, whatever lineup you were playing, something should have dropped one of the champions and played Elder Dragon. Like I don't know, play
Yeah.
Nardarius with Elder Dragon. I'm sure it's
I think
fine. Like
the really big thing is that Elder Dragon is just so flexible.
yeah.
There's an Elder Dragon deck for every single playstyle, for every single lineup. Like whatever you want to be doing, there's probably an Elder Dragon
Yeah.
deck for you, and you should probably be playing it because it's probably pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
Fun one.
if you're playing like aggro, sure, just like jam Elder Dragon elites. If you're playing control, we have Nora Elder Dragon. I don't know, like it was just so easy in any lineup to find a way to play some Elder Dragon deck. So
Yeah. Plus, Elder Dragon's really cool and really fun, so like you should put him in your deck anyway. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, Frostbitter's fun, right? Like, yeah, it's just play Elder Dragon, play Frostbitter, maybe some Sign-On, maybe Windsinger as well. These are amazing cards that are just gonna make your deck better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pythos, again,
But
being
yeah,
the most played card.
what's that?
It's funny. That Pythos is again once the most played card again in the format. It seems like so. It was
Yeah, it's
Oddworld as
because
well.
there's a lot of like Bandle aggro right now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people when they think of Bandle, they're like, oh, it's the Nora deck. But like the most played Bandle decks are like the Fizz deck, the Teemo Yumi deck, the Jinx deck. Like it's a lot of decks that are running Pytosh just as, tempo. You just remove like a little blocker or something. Yeah.
Pythos is a really good card. I mean, it obviously depends on which deck you're playing, if Pythos or Pokestick is better, but like unironically, I think Pokestick would see less overall play than Pythos. Like Seraphine obviously wants to play Pokestick over Pythos, as it also plays both, but I think if you just like drop both cards in a random format, most of the time Pythos would see more play.
Okay, I can see that. Like it's just like this having the second pink, like just like being threat. Like you having basically like bait edge, and then you have something extra value. You might discard it, right? Jinx does that.
Yeah, I mean, there's also some
often,
like
yeah.
specific stuff. I mean, one of the things that I remember seeing like very frequently in Eternal was like you'd play rearguard off token, and then you'd go to your turn, play rearguard. They would play Conchologist, and you can pie toss it and then just hit for 6, and you probably win the game.
Yeah. That is just a good card, yeah.
Card's very good.
Pythos is very good. I think of the amount of decks that like wanted to run like group shot, but like ran out of cards. Like it's a group shot that draws you a card, right? It's kind of nice. And draws you a slow speed 2-mana deal 1, but slow speed 2-mana deal 1 is like pretty okay sometimes.
Yeah.
Card pretty good. It is funny going down. Pythos obviously played in all these Vandal decks, and then Fire Spitter. I guess how many of those are Noxus decks? Not many.
How many Nox do we have?
29.
No, but how many?
That's Apex. I would maybe change to different region.
How rude. 23.
Oh,
Come on.
Mystic
Out
Shot
here
Pythos.
slandering.
Okay, how does it actually track it though? Because like, well, I'm not gonna get into it. Actually, I don't care. But yeah, Mystic Shot Pythos, Sidon, Mage Seeker Inquisitor. It's definitely interesting. It's
kind of crazy to see that much sign over like Fire Spitter. That's like, what happened here? What the?
I mean, Nora,
it's because Fire
right?
Spitter doesn't get played in like the Nora deck, yeah.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, good compared to.
I mean, sometimes you see like a or copy or 2, but you don't play many. Whereas like you would frequently see maxed out sign-ins in that deck.
Yeah, I guess Fire Spitter is more like into the Galio, right? Where you play always 3 copies, and like sign-in tends to be like 2 of in Galio. So yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, Signage just in the big boy deck, or not Sign but Fire Spitter's just in the big boy decks, the beat ass decks.
Definitely.
Yeah. And you have the Americas open, right? Is there anything crazy in this one? Cospe Fogo and Fuercilo. Oh,
that's kind of interesting. Not gonna
Is that
lie.
Fire Spitter? That's got to be Fire Spitter, right?
Can I? Oh yeah.
Hey, let's go.
Dude, it is so funny. Roji is correct. Like, it's so funny thinking about how they nerfed Sign-In, and everyone was like, why? This is why.
Yeah, with Elder Dragon. Do you guys think that it's better to nerf every single 6 cost? Or like, can we nerf Elder Dragon enough where like he isn't just, God amongst deck builders?
I just didn't boon. So like I do think that like Deathless Boon and Tab Boon are probably out of the like too good. and I think like the difference between them and the other boons are too often too big. So I would probably change that, like Ta doesn't give maybe attack boon, and that deathless is changed. I don't know how to change that deathless because I think that boon is very problematic. But I think that like the two changes that I would love to see for Elder Dragon.
I mean, I think you can try and tinker down the power level of boons, but I think you just run face first into this problem of like Elder Dragon's deck building benefit is too good. And it's like, what the fuck do you do? Like, are
Especially
we
because, like Ruben talked about when they were designing Elder Dragon, one of the things that they floated out there was like, okay, what if, the amount of Elder Dragons you have in your deck, affects the amount of boons or whatever you see. And they're like, nah, we don't really want to do that. We still want, like one copy Elder Dragon decks to be valid. So like, if that's not on the table, it's like, shit, we gotta hit something in here because this guy's a little strong.
I mean, unironically, like I put Elder Dragon in a card in like a category for rotation stuff of like I don't think Elder Dragon should have ever been in standard. That card is like not a
It's like a
balanceable
limiting
effect.
design space, doesn't it? Like it's crazy that like every time you're gonna print 6+ cost now, you have to be like,
Yeah,
doesn't this break Elder Dragon?
every
Like
6+ card, and the problem is like any deck that is like 25-ish cards from one region is just like, oh, could I just be an Elder Dragon deck? Probably. Uh, I, I don't think you can ever escape that problem, and so it's just like, well, this card is permanently a problem, and I don't
I
know.
will say that Elder Dragon is cool. And Elder Dragon's a lot of fun to play and a lot of fun to deck build with. And
Yeah,
I'm incredibly happy that it came out at Worlds because it seems like for the Worlds patches they try and push the power level a little bit and have like exciting cards. I think it was very exciting and very cool. So like I think there's value in him having been in the game and him continuing to be in the game. But it's a little bit strong right now. But I do like Elder Dragon a lot. He's very fucking cool. For like, if you told me like that Elder Dragon would come into the game and be like a big 30-30, I'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna play that shit. But that's like, okay, actually, this guy's really cool.
I mean, I definitely think he's cool. I just feel like he's an impossible task to balance. Like, if you deleted all 6 boons from the game, I don't know if that would even solve the problem. And like, I don't know what you could
Well, it
do.
definitely would solve the problem.
that
Come
was
on.
sort of
We would
okay.
not be
Like
playing fucking Elder Dragon if he
Like,
didn't give a boon.
the deck
I mean,
building is cool, but like
you
it's
wouldn't
that
you wouldn't play it in
that's
like
not so-
Nora, but like elites would probably just jam him for sign-in.
But elites would be a lot worse because they couldn't scout cheese you. Like half the time they win the game because their scout unit hits like fearsome or impact, right? And just like fucking owns you. Or challenger and just like destroys your entire board.
I think it's fine, and like I do agree that like elites wouldn't be a problem right now, but you're basically just permanently in jail with any 6-cost card where you're like, okay, does it break elites? Does it break formidables? Does it break I don't know, like Freljord mid-range soup with Sky Splitter Dog, Saurian, and like just a pile of Freljord cards? Like you have to just check like 9 decks where you're just like, does this 6-cost card break in any of my decks that are willing to play Elder Dragon?
Yeah, I think the other thing to keep in mind though is like Elder Dragon also like isn't a real region. It's like just ban it.
Yeah. It's just ban him. Also, like you said, like I think you can underestimate like how much is like the cost of like not having spells from the second region because Elder Dragon doesn't give you spells, right? And we see like this big issue of like, for example, Nico, right? That like she doesn't have spells, and that's why she's bad. Of course, like Elder Dragon is kind of different from that, but I do think you differ. Like I think like if you remove boom, like Elder Dragon is unplayable.
Yeah,
I'm
if
pretty
he
comfortable
was
with
just if he was just an origin of like you could put anything that costs 6+, any unit that costs 6+, he would not see play. We'd be having the same conversation we have with Nico every single time where it's like, okay, this is really cool and we like this. But there's no spells, so actually like you just miss out on way too much, you miss out on way too much utility. This just isn't that good. But like once every single 6 cost you play down is like a fucking Chad that gets extra stats and like just beats ass, it's like, okay, yeah, no, no. Now we're okay giving up half of our spell utility because our units are just insane.
I mean, I think like this isn't decks are going to say like, oh, I can give up like a region that I'm getting spells from to play Elder Dragon for sign-in. This is decks like elites that already don't give a shit about their second region, Because
But
Elites is
Elite
just
should have
35
given a shit.
Demacia.
They should have, but
Elites
they just
should have
didn't.
given a shit for like a year. But they didn't realize that their Allegiance card got rotated, so they've been jamming Allegiance decks for no fucking reason.
Yeah, Marsha didn't notice. So like, man, there's only one deck build of elites, man. Like, like it's just the reality. Like,
In the like Shurima ones, like you'd regularly see the Shurima ones. The problem is there's like Leona. There's a lot of these packages that like almost don't care what their second region is because they're almost a self-sufficient deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
They need something though. Like, for example, Leona still needs Might, right? Like, for example, like from the spell. So I don't know if I do agree.
I think the fact that a deck like Nora Elder Dragon has been able to come out and like is good is like a testament to how good how cool Elder Dragon's deck building is. Like this is a spell heavy deck that is taking a Runeterra region. I think that that's really cool. And again, like we can say like, maybe it's too strong, and it's definitely too strong. And like, deathless is like a stupid fucking keyword. But like, I don't know, having stuff like being able to splash Sign-In or being able to splash Broad Main or like a lot of I think the really interesting thing is stuff like Windsinger. People are realizing that Windsinger this entire time has been a pretty good card. The issue is it's in Ionia, and Ionia does not want to play a single deck that Windsinger wants to be in.
Okay. Also Sign-In, right?
To
like
be
that's
fair,
both. Like both Windsinger and Sign-In get saved by
Sided
other
too,
deck.
yeah, exactly.
Like-
When you're no longer constrained to the Ionia mid-range hellhole, you in fact are allowed to be a good card.
yeah. To be fair, Windsinger was buffed. This card was dog shit.
Wait, was it? Wait.
It didn't
What
have
was it
elusive.
before?
It was just a 4/4. This happened like 4 months ago. I promise.
Yeah, card's bad.
Okay,
Now
I
it's
had
good.
no
It is
idea.
what it is.
I had no idea.
This was a 6-mana 4/4? Like
Yeah.
no evasive keyword?
Wait,
Bro, Riot
what?
really does hate
This card
Ionia.
was dog shit.
When was this? Patch 3.16. When was that?
September 2022.
Okay, not as
Oh,
recent
did
as I
my
thought.
guy say
but
3 months ago and it was over a year ago?
I thought it was in standard, but it is like a year and a half ago.
That's fucking funny, actually. Hey, you know what? It is what it is. Windsinger, I think a lot of these cards like end up being pretty good when they aren't constrained to necessarily the region that they were printed in.
Yeah, I think that's how we got like from Jin, for example. Like also Jin was also with Bundle City. Maybe there's some issue with there. Like that. It's always been a Bundle City, but also Jin. Like I love this deck building. Like I loved it. It's so
I do
fun.
think it's a little dubious that you can currently, like, in Eternal, play 3 different copies of Bandle City Broadbane. I mean, like, they wouldn't be good because you're missing out on stuff, but you could just be like, oh, I'm gonna play Jin, and I'm gonna play Noxus, and I'm gonna play Elder Dragon, and I'm just playing Elder Dragon, like, Bandle Broadbane 3 times. A little
cool
dubious.
You said that's dubious. I think that's cool. I think that's a triumph right there. I don't know. As long as they're not like problematic,
Yeah,
it
I mean,
is what it is.
as soon as you, like, get past the one that has Nora, you're definitely gonna end up not with great decks, but
Yeah, because you're playing like fucking Narjin. You're
yeah.
playing like yeah, no, it's a little
I mean,
fun.
Like the Nora is definitely needed there.
Narjin Nora Elder Dragon is probably passable. I wouldn't call that great, but like the third one is like
Yeah, because the issue also gonna be that like Nora Elder Dragon gonna get banned, and like you have to play the
The other issue, once we like really, get off the copium, is that Nora Elder Dragon's not that good. And if we're trying to make, Nora Elder Dragon 1 and then, fucking 2 copies of it that are worse, like what the fuck are we even doing?
I got it. I'm playing Katarina Heimerdinger for my
Katarina's
Eternal.
rotated, my guy.
Yeah, we have to go to Eternal. I'm not making this shit work outside of Eternal.
You cannot play Noxus Conto in fucking standard, man. That's even more cope. Aikado.
Oh, true.
Like,
Yeah, no, I think that's the big thing to keep in mind. Like, Nora Elder Dragon's not even that good. I don't even know if there's like any Elder Dragon deck that's like out of line other than Galio. Is there one? Like, there's like the Overwhelm one that's like not that great. I don't know. Maybe the Rico region has a different read on that deck. I think that deck's not that great. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think so. Yeah, maybe the
so like okay, maybe like Ed Elites. I think Ed Elites is like pretty ridiculous too.
Yeah, they don't play Galio, by the way, in the elites currently. I don't know why, but they just added Galio. It's just, I guess the deck is better.
But yeah. Other than that, like I again like Elder Dragon, very strong, very flexible. I don't know if like I don't know if he's like that problematic right now.
What's that
Again,
with the
like
death
I think
loss?
that they need to hit the Gallia deck. But other than that, like I think he's fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
the one problem that I have with saying that is like this deck is taking up so much meta share and so much of like your matchups that like
Mhm.
I feel like every other deck's win rates is just like so much of it is colored by your Elder Dragon
How do you
Yeah,
do
for
it?
Galio
sure.
matchup.
For sure.
Mhm.
I would definitely like to see a couple weeks without this deck in there and see
Yeah.
what we end up playing because that sounds like really fun to me.
What about
That sounds like
hotfixing
I
that
mean,
it
deck?
would really
we
open up
can
things.
yeet that deck. I don't mind yeeting that deck.
Have you thought about hotfixing that deck? Why-
Yeah, I feel
Yeah, I
weird
don't
asking
like
for
in the
hot
start.
fixes at any
Holy.
point though. But it does feel like we could have maybe we could have gotten something.
Maybe
You
we
know?
could. Yeah.
Maybe something. Maybe.
I can definitely say that I would like to see them just like through. What the
Does that say
fuck
Eternal
is this
Dancers?
list?
What the Genevieve?
I mean,
Eternal Dancers?
Genevieve sounds vaguely
Wait.
reasonable. I don't know what's going on with Eternal
No.
Dancers.
Wait, Eternal Dancers is crazy. Because you know what unit has 3 power? Is fucking
Maybe.
Mage Seeker Inquisitor.
And it suppresses your
Every
opponent
single
on
open
swing.
attack suppresses. Oh fuck,
They can
dude.
play spells. That's so violent. Unfortunately, like
Oh
Junior is
no.
like stronger and Morgan is stronger, but
Yeah, but like, okay,
they
yeah,
never die.
yeah.
They never die, right?
But you don't let those units die, you know?
Oh my god! Stop
Oh
it.
my god. I will say one of the funnier games that I had was
Yeah.
in a Mordekaiser matchup where I ended up playing Tarosh, and then my Tarosh open attack ended up bringing back the suppression, so they just kind of fucking exploded.
You misplayed because that Mage Seeker shouldn't have died from your hand or something like
It
that. You
was the
should have
misplay. I needed to slay my Mage Seeker so that it would come back from Tarosh, Baya. Come on.
No, it was like you shouldn't have killed that guy, and like he was dead because you misplayed, and then it helped you with the.
He
with
was
the
dead
turn.
because I was planning 6 turns ahead. There's a reason one of us went to Worlds. You know that, Baya? There's a reason one of us
Yeah,
wanted
surely.
open. Um,
Mhm.
it's so funny in my run. I genuinely like I started out like 2-2, right? I'm pretty sure at like 4-2, there was a point I was playing against Annie Jin, and they open attack, and I keep lighting up my blocks like 6 different ways, and I'm like, I'm dead no matter what. There's no way for me to survive here. And I keep lighting them up just to like fuck around and waste time. And then one of the blocks ends up making me take less damage. I'm like, wait a second. If I don't block the overwhelm, I block this. Then holy fuck, I survived at 1 and came back to win the tournament, fucking 10 rounds later. I was
Yeah.
it was I was, I
Never
was
give
fucking
up.
down.
Yet. Never give up. Even if you think it's doomed, never give up. Maybe you're gonna be able to. It's crazy. Like just saying, this fucking happen, right? Like it's
What
crazy. Like
what
small difference, right?
what Bai is trying to say is never give up, and you too could qualify for Worlds.
Anyway,
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, you heard him.
maybe you're gonna be able to next time make top 16, guys. Like, yeah.
Same to
You should
you.
name. I made it twice.
Okay,
I'm
okay. Who do you think's gonna be the first person to win 3 opens? No one's done it yet, right?
Don't think
a
so.
boxer.
Has Boxer won 3 opens?
He won 2 opens, right?
Oh, you think he's gonna be the first to win 3? Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough. Does his one count? I guess that's the question. Does his first one count?
Depends if I win open. If yes, then it doesn't count. Till that point, it counts.
What the fuck? Okay.
So I'm the first player to win 2 majors in EU. That's my thinking.
Okay, okay. I see, I see. Because everyone else who's done it is from the Americas, right? Has
Oh,
APAC done it?
Epic
JO1, I
has
believe.
Nezik has 3 majors,
Jail
right?
one's won more than one?
Oh,
No, Joe
not
Nezik.
opens because JO1 like won a seasonals and then recently
Did
won.
Jail one win a seasonals?
No.
I
He
don't
won
think he ever did well in a seasonals.
He's
Yeah,
definitely
I don't
done
think he ever
well. I thought he had won, but
Oh, maybe he
Pimpingo,
has. I
right?
don't know.
Pimpingo has multiple wins. Nezik has multiple wins. And of course, Floppe has multiple wins,
Okay,
right?
but what about opens? Because that's the current format, and that's the one that really
I
matters, and
think
that's the
it's
one I've done the
only
best in.
I think it's only Boxer.
For
Boxer,
AJ,
AJ, Boxer, and Aikado.
did Floppy not? Oh,
Floppy
Floppy's
won
back-to-back
last
was a
seasonal,
seasonals,
yeah.
wasn't it? It was a
Yeah.
seasonals into an open.
And then he got like finals, I
Oh.
think, in one where he lost to Card Gamer,
Yes.
right? So,
Yeah.
It was
He like went
seasonal
the
win,
three-peat.
open win, finals of open.
also, Kaz won Open, and then he also made 2 finals, what I know. So these two were very close, but yeah. I think
Gotcha, gotcha.
only 3 people now currently, I would say.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
You're one
So
of
who-
them, Aikado.
Crazy, crazy. I'm the only person who's won an Eternal and a Standard. Kind of a renaissance man, you know? My ability to win cross formats.
Hero
Little different.
first formats, okay. I get
I
it.
just got really lucky. Yeah, that's
Man, okay,
I
you're so crazy. What the bro, what are these deluxe,
see
man?
the
Like,
thing is, Baya, the thing is that I'm so unlucky all the time that the one time I run good, I win the whole fucking tournament. It's as simple as that, man. If I ever run good, I'm winning. Like there's no fucking beating me.
bro, man, fucking the double vengeance stop, like, and whatever.
Okay, yeah, no, that was, but I would have outskilled him in the mirror. Even if I lost that game, I would have outskilled him in the mirror.
Surely, go.
Surely.
Anyway, I guess we can like talk about our nation. I guess that's something that Drisoth made very interesting post. It was pretty controversial what I've seen on both Reddit and Twitter.
I did the goal of any good tier list, which is I made everyone unhappy. Make no mistake, the goal is not to make everyone happy. The goal is to make everyone unhappy with your tier list.
I'm satisfied by the way with I think like there should be one change that like keeps Seraphine, but otherwise,
Yeah, I mean,
I don't mind the tier
we're
list.
definitely going to talk about Seraphine. So
yeah, if you didn't see it, Drizoth made a tier list where, you know, instead of the normal, you know, whatever tiers, he's split it into essentially what he thinks should be rotated and what should be unrotated. Yeah, so for the non-visual learners, or non-visual viewers, give me some highlights.
Listing what's like just staying where it is, it seems pretty silly. So like I said 5 champions, like, well, 7-ish champions needed to come back in some form, and they were Lulu, Gangplank, Sivir, Kindred, and Lee Sin. Pretty much just straight take them from Eternal, put them in Standard. And I thought Ezreal and Vladimir should come back with tweaks. Not like just take them from Eternal, put them in Standard, but they should come back in some sense.
The twinks come back with tweaks, and then the others come back as they are. I do think that Lee Sin especially is a champion that, you know, was incredibly problematic pre-rotation. But like post-rotation, doesn't have Eye of the Dragon. Momentous choice has been changed. Doesn't have Zenith Blade. Or does he have Zenith Blade? But Zenith Blade like sucks now.
Zenith Blade exists in Standard but doesn't grant Overwhelm.
So. Yeah, Absolver isn't in Standard. So that's like Supercharge and like Ruby-Eyed Conjurer, but not a ton of ways to give him Overwhelm.
So
do we
like
think that like
Might, for example?
Oh yeah, Might, yeah. But if you're playing, yeah. So like, do we think that like Lee Sin would be would he be good if he came back? What do we think?
I think he'd be good. I don't think he'd be like anywhere near this OTK machine that people remember. First of all, I think people are a little bit like misremembering like Lee Sin's OTKingness, because like Lee Sin Akshan definitely had these like stupid early combos, but that was turbocharged by Momentous Choice, by Akshan, and by Absolver. And without those cards, I don't think Lee Sin's OTKing you earlier than, I don't know, turn 8, turn 9, maybe? And like, if I have to use Ruby-Eyed Conjurer to get Overwhelm, I don't think Lee Sin's reliably going to have Overwhelm. So I think I probably have to be in Noxus, and then it's just like, how am I stalling games out? How am I playing good spells? I just don't see the concern for Lee Sin being valid. Like,
I think the kind of fucked up thing with Ruby-Eyed Conjurer is just giving him Spell Shield. I think Lee Sin is just like a board control would be like probably stronger, would probably be a little bit scarier. You
But
know,
isn't that better? Isn't like Set better Lee Sin? I would just say like,
I
why
think
would
they're
I
very
play Lee Sin
different.
in my deck? I just want to play Set. Like, I'm sorry, but like Set is better than this. Like,
Yeah.
you said turn 8, turn 9. I'm sorry, turn 8, turn 9. I'm having Showstopper. You know, like, and I'm winning the game. Like,
Yeah, I think if you're playing Lee Sin and not Set, you definitely need to be doing something which I assume is in Noxus, because you need to be like leveraging the fact that he can just combo kill people. Um, and like I'm just not concerned about this. Like
that was never good, right? Like,
I think it'll be playable because standard has a lower bar to be playable, but I don't think this is cause for concern.
I do think that Lee Sin, like, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that in a format with, a lot fewer answers to Lee Sin, um, we don't have like Flock or anything. I would be concerned about him just kind of running over a format maybe. I think the fact that he gets barrier every single turn is like still, kind of really fucking stupid. But maybe it ends up being fine. Maybe Lee Sin comes back. I do think that Lee Sin was very interactable on the OTK. And I think that the OTK happened like probably less than people remember, especially if they, were actually playing decks with any amount of interaction. But it definitely happened. And I think a lot of it was off the back of like barrier. Like the fact that this guy got barrier every single fucking turn makes it
yeah,
very
like
hard to kill him.
6 eyes, right? That was the issue. Like, the 6
Oh, and
eyes.
six
Yeah,
eyes, yeah.
Six
Of
Eye the
course,
Dragon was
Because we
egregious.
specifically Lee Sin, yeah. Six Eye
Mhm.
of the Dragon. I think Kindred is an interesting one here as well because Kindred, I feel like, is very problematic as a champion. I feel like this is a champion that if you cannot answer Kindred on site, Kindred will eat your entire board alive. And like, there's just nothing you can do against this champion.
I really think like SI just needs something interesting to be doing, and I don't know.
Mordekaiser.
Well, I think some people had some valid criticism of like Kindred Mordekaiser sounds completely not okay, and I would agree, but I think
That
Mordekaiser
sounds
needs
pretty
some fucking
crazy.
nerfs. So
No, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it.
Mhm.
You want me to play standard, bro? I'll play Kindred Mordekaiser. Fuck it.
But I can see that, like, because like we don't have also things like Batcha anymore. Like, we don't have that many things. We have like Harband still. Like, Harband is very good with Kindred, for example. But I can see that on also being maybe a little bit. I would maybe do with little tweaks. By the way, I would like argue with that. But maybe
I
yeah,
do
think
that.
that's
an
fine.
issue is that like Hate Spike and Death Grasp are both crazy fucking cards. Are really crazy cards. And Kindred's just it's a very scary champion to be putting again in a format with no flock.
Man,
Yeah.
when you are like that, Flock should come back. What do you mean?
Bro, if only they would bring flock back.
Man,
I
I'm
mean,
on the same boat. I love Flock, man. I want Flock back. And yeah,
even
I
if
know I tweeted a year ago that I'm happy that Flock gonna go away. I want him back.
I don't know if I like want full blown Flock back, but like, can we just like give Flock but do 3 damage back in standard and like consider buffing it to 4 damage? Like,
Also,
Nah,
it's
fuck
just
it.
like
Just bring it
give,
back and forth. Fuck it.
just give us some kind of Noxus counter. Right? We have like things like Disintegrate, but we don't have Blade's Edge. Give us Blade's
I
Edge.
also want Blade's Edge back. I did not think I would hurt for Blade's Edge as much as I have this last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise I think like, Lulu and Sivir are like reasonable, likely to come back. Gangplank, meh. Tell me about tweaks that you want to see for Vladimir and Ezreal, because Vladimir I think is a champion that we would all just assume 100% coming back. Maybe I think he's very strong. Tell me about the tweaks that you want to see for him, and then yeah.
I think Vladimir needs a little bit of power knocked off to go back to standard. I'd probably just look at a stat point. I don't know about health or power, but just
He
take
was
off
good
one
already in
stat.
Eterna. Yeah. We played Eterna Vladimir, like we couldn't put it into the Noxus Targon deck that we played there. Like I think yeah, I do agree. I think Vlad is a little bit overtuned. But I think if he gets a little bit tuned down, then he would be fine.
I think a really funny thing. I don't know how many people, because again, no one's played Eternal, but Vladimir insta flips your Morgana because he
Yeah.
can target like 5 fucking people, which is very funny.
Yeah. I don't know about that particular interaction, but I think I'd just knock off like a stat and call
Fine,
it
it
a
would
day.
just be like Nox Targon beatdown, right? Like we've
Yeah.
seen that deck a million times. Okay, Ezreal, I think is a
Yes.
champion that a lot of people would instantly be like, Ezreal can never come back. Tell me about what you envision for Ezreal.
So I feel like Ezreal's had like 3 decks, and like I guess Karma Ezreal has like showed up a couple of times in a couple of different iterations, but as 3 decks that are like really concerning to people, which are Karma Ezreal, Seraphine Ezreal, and Kennen Ezreal. In Seraphine Ezreal and Karma Ezreal, I like straight don't think Ezreal was the issue ever, because like the Seraphine Ezreal decks, like Seraphine won this game like 5 turns ago, or maybe this turn when she flipped and just like drowned you in value. But like Ezreal didn't fucking matter. Ezreal got you out of this game faster, but like you were dead lost with or without Ezreal existing. So like I don't really blame Ezreal for that. Kennen Ezreal, I do blame Ezreal for that. But I feel like you could just make Ezreal not work with combos with like there's a new sea monster, which I don't remember the name of, but
Sarifsa?
yeah, Sarisa. And she has this text of like, whenever you spend mana to play another unit. And I think you could just like literally stick that on Ezreal and fix this problem.
Assumedly with spells rather than
Yeah.
units.
Whenever you spend mana to target, do stuff, and he gets level up. And you need to like drop his level up condition, because he's going to be like, the goal is to make him levelable and usable in like mid-range decks as a burn finisher, but like just
Okay.
don't let Mark of the Storm and don't let like copied spells work for Ezreal because you didn't spend mana on it.
Question I have.
Sure.
If Ezreal wasn't important to the Seraphine Ezreal deck,
Mhm.
why isn't Seraphine Bandle played in Standard?
I think mostly the lack of Pokestick. So
I think you're wrong.
okay.
Yeah.
I think it's because the deck is dog shit and can't deal with anything. I think you'd absolutely needed something to end the game. And Cat like oftentimes isn't it, right?
Mhm, yeah.
Like you need a
Not that
lot
needed
more
it, yeah.
control tools to make Cat work. I think Ezreal was. I'm not saying it's Ezreal's fault that Seraphine Ezreal existed. I think it was like kind of like 6 spell Seraphine and then 6 mana bar, and then I think like 7th mana bar was like probably pretty okay for the game. But yeah, I don't know if yeah, I don't know.
I mean, admittedly, I don't know if people would like remotely accept, like, even if you like, setting aside that I could be wrong, even if you just like put Lee Sin and a tweaked Ezreal in the format, I don't even know if people would believe that they're okay, if they are okay. Like
I think
saying
that's
like,
a big thing. Is I think that people have, very much been traumatized by these champions, whether validly or not isn't really relevant. Because even with changes where, even if these champions were like 40% win rate and like dog shit unplayable, I think people would still complain about them. People would take the
hate them.
screenshot of that 40% and be like, here's Ezreal killing me from 12 HP. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. True. So true, bestie.
Also, something I wanted to maybe point it out. I definitely agree with that. Like, I think that people just always like hate them. Like, they just hate them. Like, even though if they were dog shit, people will still complain. So they wanted to point it out. It's like Joe from the Athena. Some people might be like hoping to get Zoe back, and I think you just said it amazingly. Zoe is not the cool Targon champion that you love. No, she would just get played by with
yeah,
elusives. So,
it's
like,
it's very funny to me that people are like, oh, Zoe, like my good little Targon invoke value generator, couldn't be the biggest abuser of elusive in the entire game, and like the most degenerate elusive champion ever created. Like that couldn't be my little Zoe. Like no.
yeah, because she gives you like discard fodder for like blowback, like, and sometimes value, right? Another elusive you have in the pool from the
Yeah, the only
superstar.
bad hits are Moon Silver and Moonglow, and like they're not even like horrendous hits, but like Dog stalls games out, Serpent gives you backline access for random crap, or like pulls elusive blockers out of the way. Trickster is obviously good. Crescent Strike and Equinox both stall out games. Your Zoe can like roll across the finish line. Like this
I think a
champion.
couple things. One is that Zoe can never come back because they buffed up Serpent, and like 2/1 Serpent's like not a standard card. It's
Yeah.
just not. I think the other thing is I think that the idea of Zoe is really cool. I love Zoe as a champion when she is that value champion. Uh, the issue is like I don't know how you fix it when we've been giving buffs to like Blessings of Targon and like Battle Bonds, and we're like we really want to help out mid-range Targon and make sure these grant spells are matter, and it's like, oh, You want my elusives to be bigger. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know if like I don't think I've ever said this, but like it was very disturbing to me when I was like big into elusives and playing a bunch of like elusive degeneracy. Literally, how I started every idea was I just went to Targon and I searched Grant. And I was like, what am I playing? I'm playing some Darkened Lodestones. I'm playing some Shield Vaults usually, some Celestial Blessings, some Purifying Flames, maybe some Blind Mystics. And I was just like, give me all my Grant buffs. I'll figure out the units later. I
I think
would follow this up with the classic elusive.
I think the fact that the standard version was running triple Targon Telestones
Yeah,
purely because it gave you access to
the
one
more
extra mana
blessings of
cost
Tarkin.
Targon Blessings. That's that's some crazy shit.
Yeah. That's what
Yeah, no, I think
exactly.
Zoe would be. I would love to see Zoe back in standard. You know, in like a conceptual level. I liked a lot of Zoe decks. I
Mhm.
think the issue is that the decks that would actually use Zoe would not be fun decks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do think
agree.
we at some point crossed this line and ended up with this problem where like somehow like Daring Poro became a playable card, and I don't think that's a good place to be.
I think
Yeah.
this weird thing happened where they rotated every single card that could answer Daring Poro.
The problem, like, elusives has been fine in Eternal. Like, at some point, we got enough elusives where people would consider playing Daring Poro, and like, I don't think that's a world we want to be in.
Mhm.
Daring Poro based actually.
Best. Yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
think it's
funny.
because Teemo's OP, so they got baited into, oh, this is just Teemo. Yeah. What else did we want to look at on your rotation list?
Um, I don't know. Any of y'all think Aurelion Sol, Udyr, or Master Yi are cards? I sure as shit don't.
Or playable
Trilla.
cards?
No,
I
they're
think
not.
Ace Soul is like fine. Like he's not great, but I think he's better than people give him credit for. I
It
think
got
he's a
better with
lot
Age of Dragons.
closer
Yeah.
to
It got
good than
better with
people.
Age of Dragons. Age of Dragons was a big thing for Ace, so definitely. And he got definitely better. Also, I remember when I was trying to buff Aesol and like I got some bad champions, people in my comments and be like, "Don't buff Aesol, he's too broken," you know.
That's funny.
Please. So the
Uh,
other issue is the other path players that are like, oh, in path, do you know Aesol lets you play the free 10 mana celestial that turn? So you should do that. And be like, oh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
No, I think Aesol is very similar to Galio. I said that Galio is better than people said that people thought he was. I said that like 6 months ago. I think Aesol is better than people think he is. I think that he flips very quickly. It's very hard to stop from flipping. And like wins the game when he flips. Like I'm not saying that he's like playable tomorrow. But like I think he's a lot closer than people think.
I mean, I don't think Aesol has just like a critical problem, which I actually would say something like Kennen has a critical problem that I have no clue how to fix. Aesol just has this issue of like every deck that's around right now is just like putting people in the dirt by turn 10. And so like Aesol sitting here is like, I need you to get to turn 10 and I need there to be game afterwards. Is like
But you don't have to get to turn 10, right?
you
it's
could
10 minutes.
ramp into him. Although the problem with that is like if I'm ramping into Aesol, that's like not as good as like playing She Who Wanders or something, but that's a different
You can pay
problem.
the 7 drop. I mean, like, you know, with the discount to the dragon and like go on 8.
You
So
could also
maybe.
just like literally play Age of Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think, you know, I think this card's a lot closer to playable than people think. If you're like just casting him on turn 10, if your plan is to make it to turn 10 and cast him, yeah, he's not gonna be great. But I think that there definitely are options. Yeah, Uder Yi. Kennen is an interesting one. Because Kennen, I think the way that he's played in standard right now is he's you know like second fiddle to Jinx and he gives you discard fodder and whatever, right?
Hmm.
I don't think Kennen's a weak champion. I think
No.
Kennen does really strong things. I think the issue is I said it for a while. I think Ari Kennen is literally a very strong deck that just lacks consistency. Um and like if it ever had any tool that gave it like more consistency, I think that the deck would be very good.
Yeah.
That's like Homecoming, I think, like something that the
Yeah.
deck definitely misses.
I think Ari Kennen like uses Kennen in a way that's like fulfilling to Kennen. But I think there's this problem when like Kennen has 2 decks, and one of them's already Kennen, which is very dubious and has issues, and the other one is Jinx, where like Kennen. I mean, it's not literally impossible to level him because you could get like the Sand Soldier unit or like an unreasonable number of copies of a specific Mecha Yordle, but like when your deck is like, it's like the Ziggs problem in Poppy Ziggs, where like the deck is just like, this is a level 1 card. I am functionally incapable of leveling this unit. That's fine. I don't think champions should be used that way. So
I wonder if they could increase his cost. If they made him like 2 mana, a little bit stronger, and then like when you recall him, he costs less or something. So like he still has Ari synergy, but like, isn't just getting played for being a 1 mana 2/1 quick attack.
I mean, comparing him to Elder Dragon Cross Hunter, like Elder Dragon, like Nora Elder Dragon is bad at leveling Elder Dragon, but it certainly can happen. I have had games won by level 2 Elder Dragon. Like it's not like
Okay,
Kennen
Galio
and
cannot
Jinx
level.
Kennen. I mean, even
Galio
Galio
Elder Dragon.
could. The problem with Jinx Kennen is like, barring like specific RNG outcomes, like the deck is incapable of leveling Kennen.
The way you flip Kennen is like by bouncing shit. Like if you Kennen spell onto Kennen, like sometimes you can. The issue is that last time I said that he doesn't flip in Jinx Kennen, like 3 games later, I queued into on ladder and they did Sand Soldier me and they did flip Kennen, and I was like, fuck, dude, my bad, I guess. But yeah.
Mhm.
It is Kennen's an interesting card. Whereas I feel like Kennen is like a much more functional card. I agree that like in standard right now he's getting played as a 1 mana 2/1. And he's a much more functional card than Tryndamere. I think
Yeah.
Tryndamere needs a ground up
Yeah.
rework. This card is just not
Yeah.
I mean,
not it, you know?
It was FTR abuse, right? We always played in FTR, and like, but since like we have Volibear, there's no reason to even play him in FTR, for example. And also FTR is rotated, so that's also another issue.
I don't know. People really argue that like Darius should be in the this is a follower tier, but like Darius does have some like interesting stuff going on about like trying to stay
good
just
finisher.
over 10 life.
Bro, I lost the game this last weekend because my opponent played Darius and I'm like, I can't lose. I'm at 2 HP. I'm chilling. And then they decimated me and I'm like, fuck. Wait.
Yeah.
I still remember
Darius
there
is
was like
good.
back, I guess it would have been when both of us like started playing. This was like Targon Cosmic Creations Zoe release. They hadn't added champion spell animations yet. So when someone played a champion spell, it just looks like they played the spell. And you like didn't realize what was going on. And it was just this constant saga in tournaments where someone would be playing Darius and it's in an overwhelm deck with no main deck copies of Decimate. And someone would just cast a Decimate. And the other player would be like, what the fuck is going on? Are they cheating? Did they swap their deck list? And they have like no clue what's going on. It just happened over and over and over. But
Darius is an interesting card because he's seen a lot of play in standard. Quite a bit, like way more than he ever saw pre-rotation. He's kind of the shining star of, yeah, once you rotate everything, this guy can see play. Is it just as the big boy beater? Yeah. And is he oftentimes only a 2 of? Yeah. But you know what? He's like fine in his decks.
Yeah.
He is a follower, by the way. But he's fine in his
I feel like he's more of a champion than Tryndamere. But
I do agree. Like, yeah, Tryndamere is like, he's a joke, and I would say arguably maybe the worst champion in the game. Maybe.
Tryndamare's just a weird champion. Because like you want him to die. But like sometimes when he dies, he becomes worse. Except he has like fearsome and overwhelm and tough. He's just really weird. I don't know. I feel like ground up rework would do him well.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh,
so he's
Yeah.
8-6 now, right? Or something like
he
that.
is an 8/6, so
Yeah.
He's Titanic. He's an 8/6. He has 6 health.
Yes.
Wait, what happened? Was he an 8/4?
Yeah.
They gave him 2 health,
yeah,
and I didn't notice.
no.
They should buff Battle Fury. Good point. Like,
Yeah,
8, you know,
Rico asked a dev to buff Battle Fury to +8/+6 to match Tryndamere, and the dev like instantly replied and was like, "Got you. We're nerfing Tryndamere to an 8/4 again."
Base. Okay, I have a real quick question. Okay,
Yeah.
we've gotten down to the why was this ever in standard?
Yeah.
I just have a real quick question.
Sure.
I'm looking through the list here. Where's Yumi at? I'm trying to find
Yeah,
out
good
where
point.
exactly is Yumi.
Where's Yumi?
Where did I put Yumi? Oh, where's my package? That's where I put Yumi.
Okay, fair. She did lose her package, but she should have been fucking gone with her package.
Yeah.
Ain't no way that stupid fucking cat should have been a standard.
Okay, I don't like.
I will agree that Yumi, the where's my package was intended as like these either need their cards back or they need to go with their cards. And I will say with Yumi, I don't think this is an option. She needs to go with her cards to Eternal.
To be honest, before rotation, we didn't see like Yumi elusives really. So that's maybe like the thingy that that maybe goes into like Yumi thingy.
We still
You
saw
wanna know
Fizz
why?
Yumi a bit, but
Because we had Flock.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
bring back clock. Every issue in this game is fixed. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That's why
Um,
if I would have one words, I would create 3-mana stun card that would create block in hand. That would.
It is funny that Yumi has a very similar issue to Zoe, by the way, where every single time you talk about Yumi, if you talk to a casual player, in their mind, they're thinking of their silly Yumi deck, where they throw Yumi on like some bullshit, a gem crafter or something, or like an Aphelios,
Mira.
and like
It's Mira.
Mira? Oh,
Yeah.
Mahira, the fucking 5-drop.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that they're putting Yumi
That's a
on. Like
card.
always, 100% of
Or
the
the-
time, the casual player is talking
Or-
about that card.
Or they're putting it on like their the 2-drop heal pony.
No, like legitimately, I
Cosmic
have been
Jungle.
in Reddit. It's always there's
Mahira?
always this
Fuck.
fucking card where people are like,
That's so
"This is
funny.
what I'm putting Yumi on." And it's like nobody is putting Yumi on that, my guy.
The issue is, yeah, this is what they picture Yumi as doing. Yumi is never, ever going on this Mahira card in like any playable deck. Yumi's going on a 1-mana or a 2-mana elusive, and it's making it just the biggest fucker on the planet. That is what this card does. It just pushes elusives out of removal range.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably the fairest thing that people put Yumi on, and like this is pretty fucking dumb.
Oh, Saga Seeker?
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays, with Ruby I Conjure, it's a little bit more dubious, in terms of like how okay it is. But I think that people just have the wrong picture of it, because I called for a Yumi nerf 4 or 5 months ago, and the response resoundingly was, "Why would you nerf Yumi? You want to nerf Yumi?" And then we're coming out of some tournaments where it's like, oh yeah, you know what? This Yumi elusive deck is fucking everywhere. It has been fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like the broking effect, right? Once again, like on release, right? Even though Yumi was pretty good on release, even to be honest.
yeah, I mean,
You played
we've
it,
got like a
Pantheon.
we've got like a 5-month lag, and so people are gonna start to realize that like Yumi's pretty good, and so public opinion will shift.
Hopefully, which is crazy because these are elusive decks. People fucking hate elusive decks, and yet they just don't realize that their minds like turn off, and they don't realize that Zoe and Yumi are the ones that are in these decks.
Yeah.
It's all Teemo's fault.
It's all for a fucking no, but they like Teemo too. It's Fizz. It's
Teemo
Skip
is
and
like-
Fizz. Even if
it's
Fizz
really-
isn't being
Fizz is-
played in it.
And people hate so much Fizz. Like it's crazy how people like hate Fizz. Like
What do
I'm
people
surprised
hate
how much
this
people
deck?
hate Fizz. I don't think Fizz is like that problematic of a champion. Is that a hot take? I mean, it is a hot take.
I think issues with Yume, like Fizz with Yume is the issue, not the Fizz himself. And that's just crazy that like people hate Spellslinger decks, and then they hate Fizz. What you mean? Like
I think
know, like-
I don't know. My only real complaint with Fizz is I think level 1 Fizz shouldn't have infinite denies. I think level 2 Fizz can have infinite denies, but I think you should like have to commit some level of spells to get infinite denies. You can't just like sit on your level 1 Fizz and tell people to get lost with removal.
I can say it's kind of dumb that also not leveling Fizz. Yeah, like you need to like more incentive to like level.
Yeah,
Fizz
when
maybe.
like Fizz Yumi is using like Fizz's infinite denies and like you just can't interact with Fizz because they play like enough spells. I think it's a little silly. When you're playing like a Spellslinger deck and Fizz is leveling, like I think it's fine to be like, you're just not allowed to target Fizz. But
Agreed. Fizz is definitely a strong card, and like when you all in on him, like I don't think that the all in Fizz decks have like ever been healthy, right? Like I don't think those are like a good thing. But like when Fizz exists in Samira as like like a deal 2 or a deal 3, that's like hard to deal with but not impossible to deal with. I'm fine with that type of shit. I think that's like fine.
Okay.
And I'm the guy playing Seraphine. I'm the guy that's trying to throw mystic shots at him.
you know,
Yeah. We're looking at the why was this card ever in standard? option, and I think this is where we're gonna get a lot of our conversation.
Yeah.
There's a couple fan favorites. By fan favorites, I mean fans hate them, but I love them. They're my favorites.
Well,
Um,
let's go through the easy stuff. So Akshan
okay.
we know
Let's
is
start with
getting
it.
yeeted. I don't
Makes
think
sense.
anyone's gonna complain about this.
Brimstone is not
Akshan's
in-
so interesting because I feel like a year ago we were talking about Akshan and we were like, Akshan should have gotten rotated. Because he's gonna be too powerful. And a year later, we're like, Akshan should have gotten rotated because he was unplayable without Absolver and Preservarium.
Also, like he should
So,
have, right? We know that he
I
should
mean-
have ran a year ago, but they were like that they need to give something to Shrema.
yeah.
It wasn't as we can see after Warrior, but yeah.
It is funny. I think it's funny because I think a lot of people, myself especially, expected Akshan to be good in standard.
Yeah.
Because like weapon abuse is like pretty good in standard. And weapon abuse with Akshan's pretty good. But
Action
you know,
Glyph is
without
still
waste
good, I
ending
think.
game.
Like honestly, I think standard Action Glyph is still good, but you have to have it, right? And like that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the problem. Like Akshan Glaive is a strong deck, but like what are your other 34 cards?
Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
Bakai, Forsaken Bakai. So we got 31 cards to figure out.
And we have like Varus, you know, we're getting there. We're getting close to 10 cards that are good. Yeah, no, I think Akshan we already know he's getting rotated. But I think it makes sense that he's getting rotated. And then you listed Scion as something that you wanted rotated.
Yeah, so I originally had two categories of why this was ever in standard good, as in like they're too good to be in standard, and then I had a category of bad, and then I realized it was only Scion, and so I condensed them, and then I forgot to relabel it. But basically, like Scion without Draven just doesn't work. Like this guy just.
Mordekaiser? Maybe.
I mean, we can play Mordekaiser with whatever the fuck we want and carry whatever the fuck we want to a passable win rate, except for apparently close stuff.
I don't agree with it. Like we don't have discards, right? We don't have any discard for Scion. We don't have like he just needs so much the Draven, and like he's pretty good in that, I don't know, right? Like
with Draven, I think Scion is completely fine. It's just like if I don't have Draven, why did you give me Scion? What am I supposed to do with this champion? Like,
I would agree with you that I think in the same category as Science should be also Rice. I think Rice doesn't make sense much. He needs Enter It, I think. I think Rice needs so much Enter It. And without Enter It, Rice doesn't make much sense, in my opinion.
I think you could make the same argument for Rise. I think Rise is a little bit different because, like, I would have hope for Rise as cards continue to release. I don't have hope for Scion without you giving me, like, Draven 2.0. So.
Yeah, Science an interesting case where he just hasn't really hit. I know he's been played in standard, but I think it's generally as like the third card in like Samira Jinx. Is that what we played in like the second standard or something?
So
did we try to play a Scion? I think an APAC player tried to play a Scion.
A couple of Scions saw play in Samira Draven in Eternal, but standard was just 3 Jinx, 3 Samira always.
I thought that Boulevard was bitching about some Samira players in standard and APAC playing Scion and fucking up his naming or something. But yeah, no, it was yeah. Scion's had trouble without Draven. I think with Draven, like this card's obviously very good. I think without Draven, he just has trouble flipping. The Mordekaiser deck flips him, but yeah. Rise, I think, is a card that should never exist ever. So anything to get rid of him, I'm down for. I'm happy. To be fair, he's not playable in standard anyway, so rotation doesn't change anything about Rise. I'll still hate him, but yeah.
And next up we have Name. It was buff, right? That's what she got. It was buff. Or
definitely
was
a buff. Sure. I mean,
like how they pointed out in the patch notes.
It was an adjustment. I don't believe it was listed as a buff, but like I found it really absurd that it was like ever conveyed as anything other than a nerf, because it was like if I draw a good hand, Nami sees 0 spells at level 1. She just comes into play flipped. If I draw an okay hand, Nami sees 1 spell. And if I draw a bad hand, Nami sees 0 spells because I have her leveled before I draw her. So you're telling me she has to see 6 spells now? This would have been a fucking nerf at 2.
Yeah.
She definitely she's a hard card to make work now. And I think that Riot realizes that Nami was an issue as she was and was like, okay, if we do give her back +2/+1, what would it take? And they're like, okay, what if you had to stick Nami on board and then they like worked backwards from there, I think. And I think it's like a reasonable place. Like I can understand how they ended up at this point, but at the same time, like it just kind of doesn't function. It just kind of doesn't work. We see cards like the new Reef card come out. That like refills spell mana when you play a unit. Like that seems like a Nami support card, but like for a Nami that existed 6 months ago and doesn't exist now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just update it so it's playable. Like, yeah, it's so funny, especially though. I just wanted to mention that. Like, yeah, it's just like doesn't
it's
make
just
sense
bizarre
anymore.
to me because it's like I was pretty supportive of the like reworking of Nami because it was like, okay, the other one like is not going to be in a reasonable place. Like you cannot balance this champion, and that's okay. Like reworking it, I understand, I get it, but like when the champion is that weak after you make this change, like you have to iterate. Like, why is this champion
Well,
even in
I assume
standard?
they'll do something. Like either they'll end up rotating her or they'll like try to fix it. But yeah,
But
I think pretty obviously the Nami rework just didn't quite hit.
we saw that change in
Um,
like May though. Like, it's crazy that like she didn't change since like May
was
when we
that how
saw.
long ago?
I think so. I might be wrong completely, but I think it's
Yeah,
like
I'm not sure.
it's few months now, and like it's crazy that she's not like 5 at least
It's
spouse. You
definitely
know.
been a bit. It's definitely been a bit. Yeah. Nami, I think is a champion that you let her rotate from the outset.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with her getting rotated. She hasn't been relevant at all in standard. I'd also like to see a world where she was, still good and playable in standard, in like in a healthy fashion, but seemingly it just hasn't quite
August.
hit.
Oh, okay.
August 16th. We have absolutely no clue how time
Okay, we
flows in
don't have.
this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. Um, okay. Here's the real meat.
Yeah.
It appears that you would like to see rotated Karma and Seraphine.
Yes.
Now, this is not an unpopular opinion among the community. I think a lot of people support
Very
this. I
popular one, I
there's
think.
there's a Sunny video that says that he wanted to see Karma, Seraphine, and Jace rotated. Um, so tell me about Karma and Seraphine and why you don't want to see them in the game.
So Karma, I think, is like much more agreeable that it's kind of unpleasant for the second player. Like the person playing Karma usually is having a decent amount of fun. The person playing Seraphine usually is having a decent amount of fun. But these champions are not the best for the other player, and like losing is always not fun. Pretty much everything kind of sucks to lose to. There's nothing that's like, oh, it's an enjoyable experience to lose to this champion. But Karma and Seraphine just kind of take absolutely fucking forever to actually take a one game state and win the actual game. And that's not particularly enjoyable for the other player. I mean,
Do you think that's actually the case?
yes. I mean, if someone is good, I don't think it takes that long. If you just like play games into Seraphine and Karma, you hit a lot of people that like just will not fucking kill you. Um, and
Yeah.
because
I
like
think
I don't
okay.
know, in Magic, like some of this problem resolved itself because like you'd see people do this and like it wasn't really thought of as BM. Where like if you're a control player and you're just like, I don't have a win condition right now, but like I have 5 denies in my hand, and in Magic denies work on creatures. And I've got like 2 ruinations, and like you're just dead lost at this point. You just see people flip their hand face up and be like, if you want to play this out, I guess you can, but like you're dead lost. So we can just move on if you'd like. Um, and it kind of solved this problem because like a lot of the frustration I feel like comes with the like you can't figure out if you're lost because if your opponent just has a bricked out hand, you could win. And I mean, I'll complain about Sunken Temple as well for like exacerbating that issue. But
I do think that well, I mean, Temple ends games, let's be honest. I do
yeah,
think that Karma obviously ended games because everyone bitched and moaned about ever hitting turn 10, right? If she hits turn 10, she wins the game. She plays your bets. Like obviously
Sure.
she ends games, right?
Especially the
so
fair one, right?
Karma should.
Okay, the Freljord one isn't a real deck. We're talking about PNC, okay? We're talking about actual versions of the deck.
I
Next you're gonna
agree.
say SI, and I'm gonna be like, bro.
I agree that like Karma should win the game on turn 10. You like put a Karma into play and you cast a place your bets, and like your opponent should just lose. But unfortunately, like if you actually played games on ladder against Karma, that just didn't happen. People would like play Karma and play place your bets, and like for some reason you'd still be in this game, and you're sitting here and you're like, is my opponent just like atrocious? Did they draw a bunch of bricks? Like I don't know what's going on anymore. Like I
They
should
drew
just be dead.
25 cards and just didn't hit set, just unlucky. I don't know. I don't think that I think that you can have issues with these champions. I don't think that like not finishing the game is like one that I necessarily would agree with. I think that people should probably be able to identify when they're in a lost game state. I think that it happens a fair bit. And I think that like Seraphine does an okay job of ending games. It's not like incredible, but it's like you're gonna lose the game within a couple tokens. Like once they have control of the game. And I think Karma similarly, you're gonna lose the game within a couple tokens. Especially like Karma runs like 9 lives nowadays. Like Karma will beat your ass down sometimes. I don't think that's a reasonable argument against them.
I mean,
I
more generally, like I am kind of guessing about like why people hate these champions, but I don't think it's particularly arguable that people dislike these champions more than most other champions, even other
I
good
think it was
champions.
I think it was incredibly telling for me when Ruben went on. Do you remember
Oh, and
the
said
dev
like
stream where Ruben
karma.
said
Yeah,
that Karma set winning the game on turn 10 isn't inherently problematic? That Karma plus place your bets winning the game on turn 10 isn't inherently problematic. And the
and people
entire
were
community
livid. Yeah,
lost their fucking mind. That was incredibly telling to me that people are not able to have reasonable conversations around these champions. I think people are just lose their mind because they're like, but my deck wants to go to turn 15. I can't beat Karma. It's like, yeah, sometimes you're gonna have a bad matchup. Yeah,
yeah.
shit happens.
The other one that was particularly like insightful to me was if you remember, like there was a meta where Nasa's Vaults was particularly good, and people were like just constantly saying this thing of like you cannot be playing a late game oriented deck because Karma is just an auto loss. And they were sort of correct because Karma was an auto loss if you were playing a late game oriented deck. Nasa's Vaults was like a 10% matchup into Karma, like truly horrendous, like just as close to auto losses as you get. Nasa's Vaults was still a good deck because it beat other stuff. And it was like, yeah, I'm dead fucking lost to Karma. That's fine.
I think the other thing is like turn 10 isn't just late game in LOR. Turn 10 is really late game.
Yeah.
Like most games end on like turn 7, 8, and 9. And like they don't end before that and they don't end I sometimes end after that, right? Like sometimes you grind out, but like if you hit like turn 12, you're like, "Oh fuck, this is a long game." Um like it's not just like, "Oh, my late game deck isn't good." It's my deck that cannot reasonably end the game at all because I'm playing dog shit, in fact, loses to the game that loses to the deck that has inevitability.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think like that's what like people just hate and why people hate this because like these two cats, especially, are the cats that they're gonna come on the board and they're gonna win the game. And that's once again like the thing that they cannot see when they're losing. Right? We had the
Yeah.
discussion multiple times already. Like like.
I mean, you might
And they
just be.
just lost to the Seraphine, they lost to the Karma. No, you lost to the set that, I don't know, obliterated your own. You lose to something else. Sure, these cats you saw the last, and you lost to them, but
I
they're
mean,
not the issue mostly.
I don't know. Maybe it's just hopeless because like I don't know. Every time people complain about like Karma or Seraphine, I just feel like the unironic, honest to God solution is like you're telling me you want Lee Sin. You're saying like your entire problem with this champion is that like it just doesn't kill you promptly enough, and like
But people hate Listen as well, though. That's the thing. Like,
well,
I think we were talking a little bit on Twitter and a little bit in Discord, like back and forth about like the Seraphine and Karma issue and like whether or not, rotating them and like having like a tweaked Ezreal or something to like fill the gap would be able to fix things. And I think the issue is that this is just going to be like a target, right? This is just like whatever the control deck is, or like, whatever this archetype ends up being, is just going to be hated. Like everyone's just going to fucking move down the line. Every single time that one of these decks pops up, everyone fucking hates it. Everyone's like, "Oh my god, this is the worst thing on the planet."
It's the, like as a Broadman, man. People want to rotate Broadman currently. Like, I don't know.
People fucking hate Broad. Nora Elder Dragon comes in, has a 53% win rate. They lose their goddamn mind. Galio sits at the top for fucking weeks. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's a little strong. I guess it needs some nerfs. Bro, go. I personally don't
Not
think people can be reasonable, but
nothing was better than back before Heisho hotfix when you'd see like Heisho Elder Dragon Freljord ramp, and people were like, Ionia's at it again. And like you look in the corner where it shows the region and it's like Elder Dragon Freljord. You're like, where the fuck is the Ionia?
I've said it before. I'd ironically think that people would have melted down much less about Haisho if Haisho was a failure card. I think because Haisho was a Ionia card,
Mm,
people like lost their mind to an extra degree.
yeah. And we have Elder Dragon we didn't talk about yet. Do we have something about the Seraphine and Karma? I
I
guess
don't
I
know.
didn't give my opinion on that. I guess I think Karma probably should go. I think she's more limiting, but I think Seraphine should definitely stay because I think firstly she's creating interesting decks. She's having big deck building costs mostly. That's something also definitely you have to be thinking about when you're playing Seraphine. That she's definitely powerful, but she also costs some deck building costs. So that's something definitely you have to be thinking about with Seraphine. She lacks consistency, right? Very often. Even though of course there's some alternatives of some spells, but usually the alternative tends to be a little bit worse. So,
I
uh,
think Seraphine's a much more interesting card than Karma, right? Like I
Yes.
think she's infinitely more or infinitely better designed, right? Like Karma's best choice is always to make it to turn 10. She would prefer to never play the game at all. There's zero onus on Karma to play the game. Seraphine has to play the game. Seraphine wants to play the game. Seraphine comes down on turn 2. She wants to play a bunch of spells so that you can actually flip her. She has a massive deck building cost. She only doubles cards the first time you cast them. So like she's an incredibly limited Karma that creates much more interesting and much more healthy gameplay in my opinion. I
Seraphine
think
has to,
Seraphine being I think Seraphine being rotated would be a travesty.
Seraphine is
mhm,
dramatically better than Karma. Like
yeah.
I would still argue that both should be rotated, but if the answer is like we need to leave one, it's like unquestionably Seraphine in my eyes. Like
Yeah,
Also,
I personally hate Karma, and I've hated Karma forever. I hate Karma. The issue is, like, when we talk about rotating like Karma and stuff like this, is it's just like the standard issue of like, we have, 80% mid-range decks and then like 10% control and like 10% aggro. And like, any controller aggro deck or like combo deck that like pops up gets fucking hit, and then we have like this massive amount of like mid-range decks. So like when we talk about stuff like Karma, I hate Karma. I hate Karma. Get rid of Karma. Fuck Karma. But at the same time, if we're just whack-a-moling every single like combo or control deck that shows up, fuck, I kind of have to defend Karma. I don't want to defend Karma, but like fuck, if you're hitting everything else, I need something I can play.
Also, something to add on this thing is that like it's so crazy still to me that people talking about Seraphine is broken, Karma is broken. No, set is fucking broken.
yes.
The set is the issue of these decks, not these two champions. Can we like see it finally? Like it's so
That's
crazy.
kind
Like
of a crazy card.
nobody complained about set other than like me and Aikado. I think like it's so crazy.
To be clear, I like Set a lot. Set's really fucking cool. I
This is
love
fucking
the turn
broken.
8 puzzle. The amount of times that like people are like, why the fuck aren't you playing cards? What are you doing? It's like, oh, this is turn 6. I'm setting up for the turn
Yep.
8 set flip because if we flip on 8, we win the game.
Yeah.
I love Set.
Yeah, Set's pretty fun. I like Set a good amount, and Set is
He's
definitely
also crazy.
single-handedly carrying Ionia control.
He's crazy. Set's a crazy card. But Riot fucking hit when they made
Uh,
Set. I love Set.
um,
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, overall, we'll see what ends up happening. I do think that, the community sentiment is like very much against Carmen Seraphine, but Majin has said it. Where Majin, a few months ago was like, if Seraphine gets rotated, the way standard is, I probably just wouldn't play LOR. And I think I've had a similar sentiment towards, specifically Seraphine, where it's like Seraphine has been like a shining light in what has otherwise been like a pretty dismal standard. And yeah,
I mean, Standard has not been great. I mean, top of the next category of like Jackson Orn, like those two going so long untouched is egregious.
Yeah, but like it's crazy. Like they've been like showing up in the April the first time, and then like of course got so much better with like things like Skyspetter getting added as well. Now also Dog. Of course they are not good now because I think it's been a bad meta for them. They don't do
Um,
well into Galio. They don't do well into like Mordekaiser and stuff. But Like the second these decks gonna get cut, guarantee you Jackson is back. Like
Yeah.
it's just gonna
If we like removed Elder Dragon from the game, I think we'd be playing Jack Thorn tomorrow. Like Elder Dragon mid range is doing a lot to like fill in the hole of Jack Thorn. And then like Mordekaiser is like the sole SI deck. SI's always been pretty okay into Jack Thorn. It's just that SI hasn't been good for.
I mean, from like what we saw in standard, I feel like the solution that I'd like to see is just rotate Ornn and leave Jax, because I feel like Jax has had other decks that were interesting, and Ornn is just like, you got Jax Ornn. That's what you get.
Don't we just play like the Rico deck, which is like the exact same thing, except it's running like Alpha Wildclaw and like Battle Fury?
I think that one's a lot worse. Like a lot
It depends
worse.
on meta. Like it depends on meta. Like into like generally meta was like pretty bad. It depends on
So
meta. I would say.
the thing is, like, I believe that an aggro version of Jax Ornn is good. I'm just entirely unconvinced that you cut Ornn.
Okay. I'm just pointing at the Rico version because it was like the version
Yeah.
that people have played. I think there's a version of Jax that's like still fine. Like I think Orange obviously very good. Orange like really important in a lot of matchups. The fact that he's tough like instantly makes him really good into like broad main decks. Like there's Orange really good. Yeah, I don't know. I think Jax Orange like I don't know. Maybe just rotate all the weapon masters. Fuck it. I don't know. Yeah, other stuff that it looks like you're concerned about being around long term. Poro King. Poro King's he's just a funny guy, don't you know? He's
Yeah,
he's a cute funny guy. He didn't even win Worlds.
Right. Oh my god.
He's
People
very
are so
cute
like,
and very
man,
funny.
new deck. Man, he's so good. How did Chennai find out Perking is good? Wait, how? Like that's a meme card, right?
Yeah, Chinia's a god for getting to finals with a meme card like Poro King. God.
Exactly, man. Like, that's exactly one of the cards that like, man. But it was meta for some time, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
he came
I do
out.
agree with that. Like it's definitely like probiotic archetype. I really hope that they never gonna buff it again because I think like there's gonna be a point when it's gonna be like mono streamer when like it's gonna become like the best deck in the game and like it's gonna be the most miserable time you can ever have. But
it was a little frustrating to see like Poros reach this state that I thought was like ideal for what Poros is, where like it's a meme. It's not like a particularly good deck, but like you can play it on ladder if you particularly enjoy Poros and you can find some success with it. And it's like this feels like exactly what you would want Poros to be. And then we buffed it. And it's like, I don't know about this one, Chief. Like
Yeah, this
maybe we
deck's
should have left it
really,
there.
really. It's very polarizing. I think that's the thing. It's incredibly polarizing in its matchups. And yeah, it's a it's an annoying deck to play against. People like it right now, but we'll see. Shen I think is an interesting card because Shen I think from like a pure champion, like one single card power level, this card's fucking insane.
Yeah.
The amount of times that we were like playing like Shen Jarvan, it's like if you hit Shen, you win the game. If you don't hit Shen, you're so fucked.
Yeah.
This card is the fact that he has barrier on play, like just shuts down so much shit. This card's really strong.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ken is broken.
a lot of
Like,
this category, was like singular cards that are propping up an entire concept, and it's like, I don't think that's entirely healthy. But like, if you deleted this card, like all of a sudden the concept just dies with it, and it's like, Ionia midrange. If you delete Shen, just gone, doesn't exist at all.
I do give it like sticking a long term because I think like especially with I don't know paint out more 5-mana challengers, 3-mana challengers, right? Then it can get definitely very very scary as a card because I think Shen is overtuned and like arguably maybe like if you just stand alone the card, I think it might be best champion in the game. Like,
yeah. The like clearest example I have of this in this tier is like Jinx, where like if you took Jinx out of standard, aggro would just never have existed for the entire year, and it's like.
To be clear, like Samira stuff would have existed.
Sure.
But, once Samira got a gutting, like Jinx definitely was like aggro. It just in a nutshell, it was whatever Jinx pile we could put together. And Jinx did okay. She's like fine. But Jinx as a card is absurdly fucking busted. And a lot of these decks like live and die on like Jinx being your last card in hand.
Yeah.
So like
we saw multiple Jinx decks throughout this year, and like It was the aggro, right? Like if you want to play aggro, like I had so many people asking, like I want to play aggro, what the deck? Just play Jinx, like because it was consistent, like especially the winner. I think like Jinx Cannon was by far the most consistent deck with winner, for example, on ladder. Like
For the
it
entire
always was
year,
like
absolutely.
55% plus, like like that just didn't change. Like
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think Jinx is like a particularly acceptable card, but like, if you rotated Jinx, like, you have rotated aggro, and like, I don't think that's
Yeah.
acceptable. But
Like
like,
what's left?
yeah, Set would be another example of that. Of like, if you rotated Set, you rotate Ionia control, and it's like, I don't think that's healthy, but like, I don't think
To be
Set
fair,
being that is healthy.
I think it's worth noting. Oftentimes, as it's me on this podcast, it's Drisoth on this podcast, it's BaJAtak on this podcast. When we're talking about, like archetypes that have been like left out in the cold in standard, we talk about, like the one deck at a time, like controller combo archetypes. Aggro has been in a very similar point where aggro has been fucked
Yeah,
this entire year, where like oftentimes they'll have like one deck. And like it usually is just Jinx, but like there aren't really like lineups that are like, really good aggro. Like aggro has very much gotten the short end of the stick and is facing like a lot of the same issues, So when you look at something like Jinx is one of the strongest cards in the game. But like I don't know if you can rotate or nerf this card.
yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. This whole category was like, I'd really hate to be the dev and have to like pick about this shit because like it just feels like neither choice ends well.
Yeah.
Okay with that.
Yep.
Nora is there also. We talked about it before podcast. I think honestly, I think Nora is fine, but I think like maybe Protoss might be discussed. I think Protapalooza and maybe Junk Construct is something that maybe can see go. I think especially Protapalooza is very strong and maybe maybe too good. But I think Nora is fine as a champion.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nora's like the healthiest part of her package, but I do think Portals is a little dubious. But if you rotate Portals, like all of a sudden, like you get this like wonderful situation where Bandle City is allowed to play aggro.
And to be
Like,
fair, it feels like that's kind of been the case for a while. Honestly, he's been like leaning towards aggro, like and bad aggro piles, by the way.
yeah.
Not even good aggro piles, they're just bad ones. We're playing like fucking Teemo Kale, and I'm like, this deck isn't good. But we're playing it.
It was
It was bad, Vaya. Come on, don't even. Teemo Kale is bad.
I
Yeah,
mean,
Nora Portal RNG is really frustrating. I'm gonna be honest with you. I really do not like Portal RNG at all. Between like it being like top 4 cards of your deck, the difference between it being your top deck and being your 4th card is
yeah.
worlds. There's worlds difference.
I
Literally
lost
worlds
at
difference.
Worlds
The
for
amount of
this.
times that I got fucked at work.
And then,
But
like,
no, it is really frustrating sometimes, just the disparity between that. But
it's
yeah.
also the difference between the cards that you get, right? Like, okay, I'm still asking why they printed the 2-mana cat that becomes 4/4 and draws you card when it's created. Like, I don't know why, but man, that's so.
There are a
Uh,
couple of portal hits that are like especially bad. I mean, like can't block ones I think are like more okay, but like every now and then you'll just see like portal hits that are like unreasonable.
I've definitely just like straight won games because like I got a 4 attack unit on turn 3 into Demacia, and it's like
Yeah.
I traded into your unit I was never gonna be able to kill
What is
this
it?
entire game.
What is the like
yeah.
boxtopus? The reworked boxtopus that you just like hit
Oh,
it against
fucking
Demacia and they
5 punch
lose the game?
Pablo. Oh
Yeah.
my god, Pablo's crazy. He refills your mana too. He's so good.
Yeah, so like Castaway, right? Also amazing, like getting weapon as well,
There's
like
so
the
many
mana.
good
Yeah,
hits.
I mean,
Like,
the like small ball one that it just like sticks in my memory is like you're playing against Demacia and they like kill a junk construct and it puts a portal in your deck and you draw it on the next turn and it's junk construct and it's just like you're in hell, buddy.
yeah, infinite.
When your
But
team maker makes a team maker, it's like fuck. I'm
yeah,
never beating through this board, dude.
also funny is
Fuck.
when you play Nora Elder and you get Junior, that's also funny.
I got it like 4 times this weekend. I swear, it's
But okay,
crazy.
opponent traded it though, like okay.
The amount of times that my opponent would kill my Mage Seeker Junior and let me play cards was incredible. But yeah, no, I find Portals really frustrating. I would like to see some sort of minimization of the RNG. Even if you like nerfed every portal card, but made it like top 1 to 3 cards. Like I think that would feel a lot better. It's just rough as it is.
Yeah, and like people are talking like making top 6, and I'm like, bro, like you make it even worse, man.
It then it's just like we're just rolling dice at that point, right? Like we're
Yeah.
not playing a fucking game. We're just rolling dice.
Yeah, like the difference between like I do agree with that. Like it's very frustrating for both the player as well, like for the opponent. Like I don't know if opponent plays Protapalooza, it's I don't know, it's control mirror, and like my opponent play Protapalooza, insta double portal, push like 8 damage. I'm like, what? I'm watching, man.
You Palooza and you don't hit until turn 6, and it's like, bro, I took so much damage this game.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the,
Yeah.
like double trouble high rolls with Nami, where you like cast double trouble, and some of them were just like ungodly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it certainly is something.
Really.
Yeah, we'll see on that. But yeah, what was the next one we wanted to look at?
Oh,
Oh,
I
Decemporo
wanted to
hitting
look up the goat.
Decemporo turning into like a Sparklefly was always, you know.
He could roll Scout during this time. Scout was still in the pool, so this thing could just like randomly come Pantheon and kill you.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, man. Fucking Nami abuser. You can tell,
Yeah.
Interesting thing that you have under this isn't really working. Just a couple things I want to look at. One, I think Pantheon's pretty good. I know Pantheon hasn't like hit a deck in a while. I think Pantheon's pretty good.
I think Pantheon's okay. I feel like these champions are like the other one would be like Samira, where like Samira was obviously like very okay not that long ago.
Vagar, right? Like Vagar obviously is. Vagar's hit quite a few decks this year.
I just feel like these champions like need something, and like it might not be rotation. They might just need cards back. Like I think Talia just needs Preservarium, and she's fine.
Yeah.
But like
Kaiser
some,
quick attack.
I mean, not all of these champions I would like to get what they need, but I think most of them have something like that. I mean, the one that I think we can all agree on is like Evelyn can rot in hell. Yeah,
Is there anybody who
fantastic.
likes Evelyn? Like, is there?
To
Does
be
there?
honest, I don't mind Evelyn. I think I don't mind Evelyn that much because like she's the point of like creating Husk. I mind when Husk are in the game where they just play hate.
I hate Evelyn too.
I don't
The
mind
thing is,
Evelyn that
okay,
much.
Evelyn is viewed as a meme card because you wanna know how I know that Evelyn's viewed as a meme card?
Because you play
It's
with
because
Kaiser.
no, because people look back at Kaisa and they're like, Kaisa got nerfed and lost quick attack. The only deck she was played in at the time was Evelyn Kaisa. It's because Evelyn Kaisa saw a play. It's like people see her as a meme card, and if you get paired with a meme card at all, it's just you're chilling. Yeah. But people seem to have completely missed, by the way, the meta where like Kaisa Garen was really fucking good. Can you tell us about that meta?
I think they missed it mostly because it was if you don't know, there was a Kaiser Garen deck. It was a deck that I made the biggest success. It was deck by I think Hash and BB made it. And I had the biggest success. I won Master Grand Open with it. I made top 8 in the World qualifying open. And then we won mostly thanks
Aegis
to that
with
deck.
it, right?
And we won Aegis. And I think that's maybe something that you maybe see the deck more issue, or we see the deck more issue because we played Aegis, right? When people were in Eternal and we were playing still standard.
People left for Eternal. We played 2 more weeks of fucking Kaisa, just shit stomping things because we were playing Aegis the entire time, right? So I think people just like missed it.
Yeah, they missed it, and then it was also the most dominant deck. So I was playing like Collider because I was grinding for the 5 world points as well. So what I remember. So I definitely faced more Kaiser, and you also did definitely than other people. And I think that's maybe why people missed it. And that was the reason of Kaiser. I was definitely agreeing with it, though I do think that the nerf on Kaiser was too much. I think level 2 should have quick attack. I think level 1 should not, definitely, but level 2 maybe should get back.
I think the interesting thing here is just the amount of people that seem to think that like she got nerfed out of nowhere. I think
She was
that's
good.
really
She
interesting.
was like one of the best decks of that format.
Yeah, the quick attack nerf was obviously huge. I am dubious about only changing level 2 because we fucking evolve on turn 3. Like I agree that without quick attack it's harder for her to evolve on curve, but like it's definitely happening quite a bit.
Level 2 quick attack and you rotate lurk unit.
You rotate the lurk unit, bro.
Don't get this fucking lurk out of my game.
You're rotating 10% of our player base, bro.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we can talk about it more with like specific to Lurk, but like, I don't know what to do about Lurk. I hate this deck. I'd like to see it gone, but my god, is this popular? So like, I guess it should stay around.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
guess people play Gwen's dead now though. The people that play Glurk, so I don't know.
the Gwenzo certainly is a deck. Certainly is a collection. That deck will beat your ass if it draws well. Yeah, I don't know. Lurk is offensive from like a design perspective and from like a gameplay feel perspective, but is very rarely offensive in like anything resembling a win rate.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's like,
this is just like once again the 19th time we've mentioned that like people just have this inaccurate view where like you'll talk about like Lurk as a high roll deck. People will be like, I play like 34 Lurkers. Like, what about it is high rolling? It's like attack token. It's not fucking whether or not you hit Lurk. No one is talking about that. What are you talking about?
people are stuck in 2021, in their mind, like they're like, oh, people still think that hitting Lurk is a high roll. It's like, nah, bro, it's a fucking token and blind Rek'Sai.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are winning you games.
Yeah, I mean,
That's it.
I don't know. Like, I remember like showing people, and people like honestly did not know this, but like we have win rate stats for a lot of stuff, and like full blown broken Kaisa, like focus seconds in 3 mana supercharge. Void Abomination was 8 mana, and it was bad enough you didn't even play 3 copies because Kaisa was blowing people up on 5. This deck was unbelievably correct. Do you know what was better? Lurk on odds. Lurk on
Lurk on
evens,
odds
dog
fucks.
shit, but lurk on
Yeah, that's
odds,
not-
still better.
We talked about it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think I think Snapshot
AJ,
should
yes.
change.
Yeah, Sharp Sight was a keyword, like Kaisa blew up on 5 every game, and lurk on odds was just like, I'd win.
Yeah, maybe we need to make like more pilgrimages to change the discourse, and bring discourse up to date. Because stuff like Poro King, stuff like Galio, stuff like Kaisa, stuff like Lurk. It feels like oftentimes the like broader conversations are just behind, just very behind. We need to do more pilgrimages to the more casual community and bring them up to date.
Yeah, update, man.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with that.
It's pretty funny.
But yeah, I
But
think I said like fix the Lurk. Honestly, I probably like because of the player, I do agree that I guess it should stay in standard because like the player base like
Yeah,
just hell of the decks.
I don't
Like,
know.
you cannot just rotate it. I don't know.
As
And
much as
that's
I
why-
absolutely hate it, I think it should stay in standard because it's like clearly a fan favorite and enough people like it.
I have to change. So Snapshot gonna be 3 mana, okay, and Bloodbait gonna be 0 mana.
No, see, Bloodbait needs to go to exactly 4 mana. Because if it's 3 or less, it can be seen off Conchologist, and if it's 5 mana, it can be seen off Fan Club President, and if it's 6 or more, it can be seen off Reggie. So Bloodbait to precisely 4 mana.
okay,
wait,
4 mana
summon-
Bloodbait.
Summon attacking Snapjaw.
No text change. Fuck it.
Okay. Okay.
Shit. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, no, Lurk, I don't know. Lurk is such a hard fucking thing. People just like it. Yeah, I
What
don't know.
about Deep though? What about Deep? It's so maybe something similar. It's not that popular as a Lurk, but we also saw writers being kind of passionate about like Deep and giving it more package or something like that. So.
I think Deep is a fan favorite in like concept, right? Deep is another deck that like if Deep was tier 0, people would still be defending it. They'd be like, "Oh, for the first time ever, Deep is good." And it's like, well, Deep has been like a solid meta choice for like a long fucking time.
Like
I
few
don't know.
months ago, right? Didn't like we saw some tournament with Deep, right? The
Deep
Aegis win, right?
literally almost all of standard Deep was like this like solid like tier 2 option that just like beat other mid-range decks, right?
Yeah.
And like had game into control. Like Deep is never that bad. Everyone wants to pretend it's bad. Deep is literally never that bad. If you just double scarab someone, you're probably winning the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think like as much as I really dislike dealing with these decks because they're not very interesting or engaging to me, like they're not offensively bad most of the time. It's just like really not something I enjoy. I mean, the only kind of actual problem that I would say these types of decks have is like Bilgewater is just fucked as a region because they got like 4 of these, where it's like Alawi, Tom Kench, Pike, Nautilus. Yeah, just 4.
Yeah,
But
and all
like,
their pairings are in another region. But yeah,
yeah, it's
Now
like
unplayable.
you gave Bilgewater 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 champions, and just 4 just aren't real Bilgewater champions. They're
And then
Runeterra
Nami is unplayable.
champions.
So it's
I
still
mean,
5 champions. That
you could theoretically buff Nami, but it's like Nautilus, Pike,
Yeah.
Tom Kench, and Alawi are not Bilgewater champions. They are Runeterran champions that happen to have their entire package in Bilgewater.
I think for a while, there was an idea of having, like cultivated like deck experiences,
Mhm.
that would, come from having, 2 champions that were meant to be played together, and then one of them would be like tied very much like, very close to the archetype, and then the other one's a little bit more flexible. We see this in like Darkness, where like Vagar is tied like very close to the archetype, Sen is supposed to be more flexible.
Yeah.
But it feels like, when we look at like Bilgewater kind of got a lot of the ones that are tied to the archetype. Like, are you supposed to be flexible with Nautilus? You can't be flexible with Nautilus. Maybe Tom Kench was supposed to be flexible, but that didn't really happen. Is Pike supposed to be flexible? Like, they kind of got like the short end of those like sister decks.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
It
also
feels
like with like Nila, that also kind of tied to PNC, right? I cannot see playing Nila without PNC, by the way. Like,
well, Neela Samira, like pre Samira, like gutting, right? But you're right in that like she definitely it was meant to like synergize with PNC.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, like certainly some of the problem is that their half is more flexible, but like I'd really just point out like no other region has this number of like
Yeah.
forced pairing champions where it's like if I go look at Demacia, like is any of these
Queen,
even
I guess?
forced? Like sort of Garen, you have to play elites with Garen kind of, but that's not even entirely true. Lucian kind of
I guess
has to be
Queen.
played in SI.
Quinn was maybe like with MF in the past, but I guess it changed as well, like with Atox and stuff.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think that a lot of other ones, like we've sort of been able to like break them out of their pairing, right?
mhm.
Um, yeah, I without like going through each one, like I'm not sure, like Rumble was supposed to be a pairing, but like we've done a pretty good job of like breaking Rumble out. Yeah, a lot of them, yeah, mainly
Yeah.
Rumble was
Trina.
supposed to be fucking mech character, man. Like it's it never was that.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like how severe the pairing is with the Bilgewater ones and like how many paired champions they have. They have more than they did, and it's like much more restraining than the other regions ones. Like LeBlanc is like kind of forced to be with Sivir or Ash, but like you can certainly play her outside of
Two
that.
choices, right? Like that's 2 choices. Like,
Yeah.
it's fine. So we now see like with Mordekaiser, right? I think like LeBlanc Mordekaiser is completely like fine, like maybe concept, and I'm not sure maybe might be even like deck if we get some new tools, so, for example. So
Yeah, yeah, it certainly is rough. I guess Nocturne was like pretty locked in until they changed him
Yeah.
to like
yeah,
Fearsomes
yeah.
because
That
he
was
was
amazing.
just Nightfall,
Mhm.
That was amazing.
and like Diana was the flexible one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think like there's a big deal when like the level up condition like specifically calls out the mechanic, and it's like, okay, I guess I have to
Yeah.
engage with this mechanic.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. It's just like if like if we look at Bilgewater and Bilgewater's like made up mostly of those types of cards, then it becomes really rough to try and build like a Bilgewater deck, right?
Mhm.
Like, and I think that's like a fair complaint. The last 2 chances we've gotten though are Jack and Nila, which like could be pretty splashable. And I think that's like a move in the right direction. I think that's a good thing overall.
I think it was intentional. I think a lot of people were like, "Why did Bilgewater get 2 champions this year?" It's like, look, like,
Well, Bilgewater was also behind his champion still. Like,
Yeah.
it still had one less champion than like all the other non-Banda regions.
mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. Jack's an interesting card because I feel like Jack, like a post changes where like he heals when you coin. Like this card's really scary. And like I think like Jack said a lot of times like lives off the back of like Jack sticking. If Jack sticks, like Jack kind of goes fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but it just feels like the rest of his shit just doesn't quite work. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I wouldn't really
His
put more
package is
buffs
weird.
at the card Jack. I think his package needs help, but I don't think he needs help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like he's scary with like formula, right? Like I think there if his package got some buffs, I think eventually we can see something with him like being actually good. And like Jigsaw was pretty close to be honest. I think like it needs. I don't know if it's once again Jig said, but yeah, I would just buff a little bit of the Jig's package and like then maybe you can see some Jig play because I think the card is good. Like the card is just has to be good. Like it does a lot, but
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I mean overall, like any champion that came out this last year, like outside of specifically Heart of the Huntress, I think basically every other champion was like a fucking banger. I think Wright did a really good job. Even if they didn't like hit meta play, like Jack didn't like hit a ton of meta play. He was like an alt champion in like BB decks or something. And then like Jack set after some buffs was like playable. Overall, I think that Riot like really crushed like the champions that came out this last year.
Yeah.
I do definitely agree. Yeah. Maybe like of course overtuned a little bit the last set, but that's also fine. I think considering like
They
we
were
get
all
like
overtuned, but that was good. Like Samira came out
yeah.
was overtuned. Set, Jack wasn't quite overtuned, but like a lot of the Ijana,
So hard on the
Mila,
hunters, right? Like
I, a lot of people like are upset when like new strongs. It's like, oh, these new champions are too strong. I'm glad we're getting strong new champions. When we get new champions that aren't strong, it's boring as hell.
Yeah. I mean, Heart of the
get friends
Huntress.
knocking that down, then
I remember at the time people being like, "Was Heart of the Huntress a failed expansion?" And I think like, unfortunately, hindsight is 2020, and the answer is yes.
I think it's hard because like failed expansion like has a lot of baggage with it. I think if we like go in and define it, like were the champions like failures, probably Nidalee like showed up in a tournament and like won a tournament. But like she wasn't like great. There were definitely a lot of cards that came out in that expansion that were good and like you could play and like we're seeing meta play. But like, if we're defining it as like the champions, then it definitely was rough.
So the issue is like a lot of those cards caught buffs. Um, I went and dug up stats on this for something like Glacial Soaring got buffed and wasn't really doing much prior to the buff.
Oh
it
wait,
was
wasn't
supposed to be
Sorion
for
literally getting
play.
played in Jack Sorn? And that's why we were
Yeah.
upset. That's why we're like, why the fuck is this card getting buffed? We're already playing it.
Um,
Yes. We were playing
The
the
answer is
fight.
yes,
We
by
were
the
playing
way.
Tyrant, and
okay.
we were playing the Archer.
I
Right? We
thought
were
it
playing the.
wasn't because it didn't have Overwhelm, and that's like a
We had
We
a
played it.
critical
split. We were
thing.
playing Sorion and Icevale Archer,
Okay.
or
Uh,
the
yeah, the 5 drop.
the
That was
Varus
overall
5-drop,
too.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
like they buffed it. It's like, oh, okay, I guess we don't have to split anymore. It's just it's
Yeah.
just Sorion, baby.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
it
I,
was so like I remember that podcast also.
yeah.
It
I,
was
I mean,
so
I,
funny.
I pulled the stats on it because I was curious. And I had like a convenient thing. And if you looked at the Heart of the Hunters open, like of the cards in the expansion that saw play, 70% was Siren Song, the card. 20% was this boy because of Siren Song, the card. And
Yeah.
like that was 90% of the play of cards from Heart of the Huntress.
Yeah, I
Which is
like
like,
I think a lot of it was, like Avenging Vastaya, and like Hextech Contraption. Like again, this was an expansion where like cards hit the meta. It's just that they weren't champions and they weren't like build around cards other than Siren Song.
yeah.
And like Siren Song, is kind of like it kind of gets nixed because we fucking killed that shit instantly.
I guess
Um,
some like made some decks though. I guess some of them made some decks.
the monument, but like yeah,
Some of
It
this
wasn't
was
like
from the
that many
variety
cards, but
patch
it was.
because there's a variety
No,
patch in here as well.
yeah,
some of
yeah.
them wasn't variety. I'm pretty sure.
No,
Some
some
Monument
monument was
wasn't, but
not.
like Balin was, right? Like
Balin
some of
was,
these
yeah.
were. But yeah, again, I think that like there were definitely cards from this expansion that saw meta play and impacted the meta, but I think a lot of them weren't really built around. And then like the champions that you would expect to be built around like weren't good. So I think like in that sense, like I think there's definitely an argument that you could make that like it was a failed expansion, but I think that there was still value in it. I think that there were still good things in it. And I think that, there was definitely still like meta impact. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the response to it was colored by the fact that
Sorry, it
Jace
was
Heimer.
so
People
bad.
just fucking hate Jace
Yeah.
Heimer.
Yeah,
Bam.
completely agree.
I don't know. The last of this is
Whereas
like,
we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it multiple times, right? Especially the Nocturne, the Nightfall.
yeah,
We talked about her Homecoming and Lucian being. He lost all aside tools. We know now why, because Mordekaiser came in, right? Butcher. I'm kind of curious about Eternal, by the way. It's gonna be fun. But
I do want to say, like, I think it's fair if you're a rioter looking at rotation, being like, we have Mordekaiser coming down the pipeline. We can't have Butcher in standard when Mordekaiser comes down the pipeline. I think that's fair. I don't like when rotation is looking at an SI meta that's like 9 months down the road. So you have like
Yeah.
9 months of SI being like really bad. And then like at the end of the road, we're like, oh, well, it was because of Mordekaiser. I would rather, like, if we're looking at rotation where, if like Smolder's gonna come out and Noxus Smolder in November is gonna be the most broken shit ever with, X card. I would prefer the X card is like in the game until then. And like if you want to pre-nerf that card, fuck it. Pre-nerf the card. I think that's fine. The issue is when we
Well,
look at like
constantly,
these
right?
incomplete regions that like just aren't getting support for the entire year, that are so champion reliant. Because like Mordekaiser came in, Mordekaiser had a patch. Mordekaiser's gonna eat a nerf. So we got like an SI deck playable for like 2 months. That kind of sucks.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I do agree with you completely.
I also think it's a really suspect for like the Mordekaiser situation where it's like theoretically this like split formats thing is supposed to like let cards live in standard and you can rotate the things that would break them. But like what happens when we rotated the card that is broken with the standard card? Because like you're not going to get to play Mordekaiser and Ravenous Butcher and Eternal either. So like is Mordekaiser going to eat a nerf for Eternal cards? Like that's not how this is supposed to work. What are we going
We
to
saw
do?
that Cosmical, right? We saw Cosmical being that
Yeah.
way. Like Cosmical was never an issue in standard. It was a good deck, yeah, but it was not an issue.
Yeah, and to be clear, like we don't necessarily know if Riot like rotated like a lot of slate package because of Mordekaiser. That was just like the example that was offhand. But I do think that you're right in like once we start like nerfing standard cards for Eternal, because like the other one is like Samira. Samira kind of ate her last nerf as like assumedly an Eternal focus nerf because she wasn't that great in standard. When she went back to Eternal, she was gonna be very good again. But like I'm pretty sure that's why she got her last bullet. Um and
It's weird.
it's a little bit rough because like it's not an easy position for Riot, right? Because like they can't just like have it, have like this deck like run a train on Eternal, and they can't just like nerf like 10 cards in Eternal because like Mordekaiser came out in Standard, or maybe they can. I don't know. It's a really hard decision to make, right?
Especially like considering the Samira, right? Because Samira was probably enough, like because of like Samira action as well. Like Samira Seraphine. Let's be honest, Samira Seraphine was
Oh
probably
yeah,
the
the
most
Plaza
dominant,
Guardian
the
deck.
best
Yeah,
deck we had this year. And
yeah.
like arguably like saying that like Samira Seraphine is very hard to nerf because most of the tools are from standard, So yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard when new cards come out that synergize so well with Eternal. And like again, I don't know what the answer is. I just know that it feels bad. I have like some, like really big like Cosmic Call fans are like, bro, Cosmic Call is like my favorite shit ever because I love Invoke Targon. Why the fuck did Cosmic Call get nerfed? I can't play my Invoke Targon anymore. It's like, that's a fair point. Yeah, I don't know. That does suck.
Yeah. It's hard thing to fix definitely. I do agree that like it's not like I don't have the solution myself, so I don't know.
Yeah. I don't envy them. It just feels bad, And we send that up to them and hope that they're able to find a solution. That's what I've sort of been looking at with like rotation in general, right? Like we can go through and like make a list of like every single rotation card, and it's like should this get rotated, should this not? I think at the end of the day, like the minuscule or the minutia like isn't really something that like I feel comfortable like being like yes, this card 100% should or shouldn't. I just know that like in my opinion, standard to last year like just didn't feel that great. And these are the reasons that I feel like Standard didn't feel that great. And I hope that Riot's able to find a way to make it feel better next year. And I'm sure they will. I have faith in the Rioters. I have faith in our devs. Like they do a great job with this game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So it was first try at the rotation, right? They definitely learned something. I know that they learned from, for example, from the Heart of the Hunters expansion. They were like, we maybe released too many neat champions, and they said that themselves, right? That they learned from that. So I do believe them. It was first time, and like I do believe in them that they're gonna make the second time much better.
Yeah.
I think that's
I
why
hope
we had said previously, like, once again, I would love if we got an article or an interview or something with a rioter talking about what they learned from rotation in 2023. I would love, oh my God, I would love something like that. I don't know if it'll happen because it's a lot of pressure on them. Anytime that they come out with something like that, like there's the chance it just gets memed on or, whatever. Um, but at the same time, I would love to see them talk about like how they feel like 2023 rotation went, how 2023 standard went, and then what they took away from that, and then what they're bringing into 2024. But yeah,
Maybe like on every like champion, maybe like then if you're gonna see rotation, it'll maybe be some like cards going in, going out of standout, being maybe like some text why is that happening. It might be also pretty cool if that
yeah.
happens.
Imagine they rotate 500 cards again. They just fucking drop.
Yeah, I said like I really hope that they're gonna rotate more cards back than they're gonna rotate in, but I really hope that
Flock.
we can end up.
Give us Flock. Flock fixes everything.
I
I
mean,
don't know if like okay, is Flock alone good by the way? Like, don't we need like
I want
Void
Flock
Edge?
plus Blade's Edge. I want both. If I get both back, I think we can cook something.
I don't know. The like specific complaint that I'd want to pass on to Riot is like if we could really cut down on the number of cards that were like effectively rotated but not actually rotated. Because
Yeah.
that was really what dragged. Where it was like, what is the point of having Nocturne in the format? What is the point of
I
having
wouldn't be
Nami in this
surprised.
format?
Again, they're kind of like shooting dark. And off of their first rotation, in terms of like, what's the overall power level going to be? What are people going to do with this? Are people going to be cooking a ton with like these underplayed, characters? Like maybe Nocturne, in their mind, like maybe Nocturne can end up being playable. Maybe they'll find something. And then like you see it a few months in, it's like, oh, okay, well, they've definitely had trouble finding a way to play these champions. Like I could understand coming off the first rotation if they were shooting a little bit in the dark and like they're just kind of seeing where it lands.
Especially like
Hopefully afterwards though.
especially like it's so hard as a writer, especially like they were mentioned that they have like some broken Tarragon control deck before American release or something like that, right? Back in the past, and like we had no Tarragon control, and we were like, what is going on? And like it's so hard, to like expect what's gonna happen, right? Because they might have thought that maybe I don't know Nocturne Callista First Storm's gonna be good, maybe I like it's hard, like it's not easy, and like yeah. And then it's maybe pity that we have rotation once a year only, but maybe I guess it will be maybe confusing, right? To some people. So
And there's definitely gonna be growing pains, but yeah. No, I think that overall Riot does a good job. And I hope that they'll be able to, take some away from this last year. I'm sure they did. I'm sure they learned a million fucking things. I'm sure that this is like one of the biggest years for learning stuff like that. And I or maybe not. Maybe they say fuck it. It was perfect. Maybe.
I have hope, but I don't know. I think there's definitely some concerns. I don't know. Every time stuff about like LR's future comes up, I feel like people are either like way too positive or way too negative, where people will just be like, it's all doom and gloom. LOR is going to shut down on like next Tuesday. It's over. Or people are
We
like,
don't even get a Galio nerf first.
no.
Fuck.
Or people are like, everything is perfect. There is no concern here, and it's like there's a GIF that you see posted a lot. It's from a TV show of like, it sounds weird, but it's called The Naked Gun, where there's Leslie Nielsen who's like, nothing to see here. Please disperse. And there's like explosions and fire in the background. So
Yeah.
I
I do think that people oftentimes like go one direction or the other. I think it feels bad to shit on a game that you enjoy or spend a lot of time on. It doesn't feel good for anyone. And I do think that sometimes the doomers, anytime I see a Mo tweet, I'm like, bro, chill the fuck out. Like, come on. This is like a 12. I need you to bring it down to like a 7. Like, let's have a reasonable response. But yeah, I don't know. I think that LOR's future is solid. I think it'll be good. And I
excited
have
about
faith in the writers. I have
second
faith
version
in
of
the devs.
Champion. I'm very excited to see the second version of Champion. I wonder what it's gonna be.
Old man Yasuo. It's so funny.
Like,
It's so funny that my Discord was literally like, we were literally calling the 2.0 champion because we got into a whole fight about like what a 2.0 champion would look like. And we were calling it Old Man Yasuo. And then 3 days later, the
Old
video
Man
comes
Yasuo.
out where they have Old Man Yasuo in it. I'm like, wait a second. Maybe
I'm
we
excited. We have some calendar coming up, of course. Just kind of time off, right? When we look at it, on the 7th of February, we have a patch, and on 24th of February, we have next Runeterra Open. We don't know if there's going to be prizes on it or not. My theory that I have theory on is that the next Open will be Worlds qualifying one. That because we still missed 3 slots from last year. We had seasonals, and like 3 people from that got to Worlds. Like it was Nezik, it was Floppy, and it was Ultraman. And we missed these 3 spots. And if we run back the format, so I would be surprised if this was Worlds qualifying Open.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I would not be surprised if that is the case. Is this accurate, by the way? Are these like confirmed dates?
The 24th was in client, and the 7th is confirmed. What I know.
The 7th is
but
confirmed.
But the 24th is not confirmed, what I know, so it might change. But it was in client, and the last time it was something in client, it happened, right, with the last Open. So I would assume it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. Well,
Yeah. What are your goals for 2024, Baya?
Get better, be more consistent. I guess that's my thing. Yeah. Get better. Yeah. Be more consistent. Do more content. Continue with the podcast. Have fun. That's my goals.
How about you, Drisoth? Do you have 2024 goals?
I mean, we did a little bit, and I don't think they've changed much, but I want to play less LOR. I want to do new things. So try and do that. I'd like to qualify for Worlds again. That's definitely a goal of mine, but
I want you to win Worlds, Drisoth.
why?
Because I want that for you. You know
Okay.
that? I want that for you. I think that you would be a good.
What you mean?
What's
I
that?
would play Flock support.
So here's the deal: we can't have Bio win Worlds because if Bio wins Worlds, it would be a 4th EU, and there's
It
no
would be
fucking way.
insufferable, to be fair.
It would be doomed. Bio already has enough of an ego, you know.
Man, we're winning always, man. Like, okay, like, man, there's no NA Copum ever. Come on, like, we just winning again. Like, it's just a thing. You're super region.
Can you tell me about why you guys were losing to Monoshirima? Why did Monoshirima get second in your tournament?
Because we only care. We are the cheating region. We only care about prizes. So when there's nothing online, we are having fun, and we just having for fun tournaments. We just having fun. We don't play at all.
Oh, okay. That's gotta be it. Was he on your side of the bracket? Do you know?
I didn't check, but maybe. Yeah. I think I just want to check on is we have the pool from Drisoth of the meta injury, man.
So actually I do know because like people like Mogwai have been tweeting. Here's the thing, okay? So like we see like Mogwai tweeting, we see some other people tweeting as well, where it's like, I think Mogwai said, I would a patch every 6 weeks. Is that too unreasonable to ask? It's like we get a patch every month, my guy. We do get a patch every month. The December woes. There's something it feels really bad every single time. And like it's understandable why it feels bad. And like I think people like generally, maybe ignore the reason why, but I don't know why we pretend that Riot's like just fucking abandoning us.
Just playing TFT now. Leave him be.
Okay.
So we have some data.
Okay, I can't my like online drive can't pull up the summary links for the other ones, unfortunately, but I can tell you previously this is like 3.6, 3.6 and a half would be kind of a typical one. And this one's typically a bit lower, but it's like a 3.3, 3.4 usually, so people find it decently less fun and dramatically less balance.
Makes sense. Galio is definitely above the line.
And Worlds patches, I think, are always like a little bit unbalanced, which is a good thing, by the way. I don't think every patch has to be balanced. It might be a hot take. I don't
think like Worlds like being interesting with the new champion, so it's like not on the old deck side. Therefore, I agree.
Yeah, can you imagine if we had gotten Heart of the Huntress as the last, as the Worlds? That's
holy. First, holy. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, off the back of like Elder Dragon Morgana. I don't know. I think you could argue PNZ in like general spread of power versus Demacia, but like Demacia is like obviously like the strongest singular deck. But
Is
Yeah.
it even like singular deck though? I mean, like I guess if we're lumping in like every single Demacia Elder Dragon deck, there's
It's
like
out of
4
the
of them.
master, yeah.
There's like 4 of them, and they're all really good. But yeah, I don't know. PNC over Bandle. Bandle's number 5. Bandle should be number 2.
Yeah, Bundle is crazy, and I think in current meta, Ferret is a little bit too high. I think Ferret is pretty weak now. But
Bandle
because
might be the best region in the game right now. Like, okay, a Runeterra number 1, a Bandle might be number 2, and then like Demacia. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
It's a
I
little.
think PNC is over the master in my opinion, but yeah,
You think what?
I think PNC is better than the master because I said like I think the master is just a bit older. I think that's the thing when the master is quite problematic.
Do you think PNC is a 1-card region, right?
Is it?
Which one card?
You have elusives. You have
Oh, fucking elusives. Elusives are a Bandle. That's a Bandle deck. Elusives is a Bandle deck. Teemo's a Bandle champion.
Cope. Surely.
No, so I'm talking about Temple. But there's literally
Jinx, bro. Like, what are you
that's a
talking?
Bandle deck. Okay, so there's 6 PNZ decks in the top 100 play rate, right? 6 in the top 100. 2 of them are aggro. It's Jinx and Teemo Yumi. 2 of them are control. That's Karmaset and Saraset. And then it's Caitlyn Teemo and Jananila. Like, yeah, I guess PNZ is the aggro region. You know, unlucky. But they're both PNZ Bandle. I don't know, but so true, so true.
I don't know what to tell about this, man. It's a PNC. PNC is good.
Yeah. Maybe.
But
I don't accept the Teemo Yumi. You know, I just don't accept that.
I do think that Butter shouldn't be 5th. I definitely don't get that Bandle 5th is kind of crazy to me. I think the bottom 5 is probably correct, though. I think I would agree with that. Even in this order as well.
I think the Targon is better than where it's at.
Targon's definitely better than there, but
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think of course they have Morgana. I do agree with that, but like I think it should like Morgana is better than the Master. I think so.
Morgana, AOD, Cosmic Youngling. There's a lot of good Targon decks right now. But
Anti-aggro tool. There's not much aggro though.
yeah, unlucky. You know, maybe if PNZ was better. Let's buff PNZ, that way Targon can be good.
Oh my god. This dude.
How many respondents? Does this say 47 respondents?
Yeah.
So 41 of your 47 respondents are masters?
Correct.
That's a lot.
Well, it is what do they expect in the season at? Unfortunately, without like the season being over, I can't like say what rank are you, but
Did you put it on did you put it on Reddit or on Twitter?
I have not put out results. I'm putting out these like I'm trying to put these out consistently, and I like save the results to a drive that I have, and it's like
I said on Reddit if you put it on Reddit.
Oh, I have not like put it out on Reddit. I don't really know how I would, because I don't want to spam the Reddit. That kind of gets awkward. I should probably talk with Sarah about how
like
to do
what's
that.
a patch is like pretty reasonable, right? Be like, hey, here's the monthly meta survey.
Yeah,
because I think like this is now like about like from good players, right? Like because you see most of the masters, right? I would be interested how people from Reddit, where I assume that the average rank gonna be lower than on Twitter, is like what they think about the meta. How do they find the balance and stuff. That's something that I would be definitely more interested in as well.
Yeah,
because
I'd like to get it.
Has to take in consideration, right? Like, sure, we might be complaining about some decision choices that Riot made, but let's be honest, like. People hate, for example, the Seraphine, the karma, right? People hate it from the lower ranks because they don't enjoy playing against it, for example. So
cowards.
That's
these freaking guys. Interesting thing in terms of polls. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm moving on to a thing. If you have something, go ahead.
It's okay.
No, if you have something to say, you can say.
I should try and figure out a way to get it posted consistently on Reddit. So.
Interesting poll that I put out. So I put out a poll where I was asking people how they felt about the length of the battle pass, and a lot of people thought it was too long. And I was like, oh, but a lot of the responses were like, I play, a game a day, and I feel like I should be able to complete it. I was like, interesting. I wonder how much people actually play the game. So I asked people how much they actually play the game. And this is just people who follow me on Twitter or see my thing on Twitter. And like I assume that this is all people who actually play LOR. You know, some percentage just might be people who just don't play. Um, I was surprised how many people play 0 to 3 hours a week. Apparently, a third of all respondents play
Yeah,
the game less than
an hour a
what
day or
20 to
something.
30 minutes a day. Because like 3 to 7 hours a week, like 7 hours a week is 1 hour a day, right? So like 60, like 2/3 of people played the game for less than an hour a day, which like isn't that unreasonable. I was just surprised how much of it's underneath 3 hours a
Yeah,
week.
I can see that. I think though, like with the Battlepass, there's like valid discussion. I think the quests are pretty dumb and pretty too hard for no reason. Like, and that's something that definitely is frustrating. Also, like that it has to be match made game. For example, with the attack with the 75 plus power, and like then like opponent also conceding. I think the quest that they made, for example, for Battlepass was pretty dumb. And
Some
I
of the
can see the
quests
frustration.
some of the quests definitely like need tweaking, but like an interesting thing that I see is like, okay, so if we think about like the battle pass in general, because I can link the one where I did about the battle pass, where it's like, it's similar, where a lot of people felt like it was too long. um
Mhm.
if we're talking about the battle pass exists to make people play the game more. That's why games
Yeah.
do battle passes, is because they want you to log in every day and they want you to play the game. And if you play the game less than 3 hours a week, you probably shouldn't complete the battle pass. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I feel like you probably shouldn't complete the battle pass.
Yeah, my experience with the Battle Pass was like I saw this discourse blowing up, and I was like, that's interesting. I guess I should go check my Battle Pass and see how complete it was. And I like click on the event tab, and the bar just like scrolled all the way to the right, and I clicked claim all, and I was like, huh. I don't know about this one.
But yeah,
Mhm.
here's the second one, or the other
First
one,
one.
where I asked people how they felt about the battle pass. Um and 51% of people felt like it was too long. And I mean, if 50% of people play, less than an hour a day, like I'm not saying you have to play like an hour a day to complete the battle pass or something, right? But if you're playing like 20 minutes a day, I don't know if you should complete the battle pass. I don't know if that's something that Riot wants you to be completing the battle pass with like that little play. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's like, man, the pass is so valuable, man. You have 3 skins there. You have so many resources. You have like ammos. You have
Mhm.
so many things. You have so many part of champions things as well. Like, yeah, I do agree that the pass is long. I myself completed it on Drag Open, for example. What I know,
Yeah.
so. But I didn't play that much as well, and I guess I do agree with you. Like, I think that there should be some. You have to play quite to complete the pass because the pass is so rewarding, right? Like, you get so many things for it.
You get a ton of stuff. And again, like the point of the pass isn't for everybody to complete it. That's not the point of the pass. The point of the pass is for people to play the game more. It's to like
Mhm.
psychologically make you open up the video game more.
I
Um
think the issue is that, like, in the pass was like completed in like 2 days, man. Like, you just completed instantly because like that was a thing in the past, and like since they made them harder as well, like now they made. I don't know if it was the issue with the quest before, but the quest, yeah, like also being much harder than before. Because in the past, I know that I was like completing them by accident, what I remember. So,
Never once in my life have I looked at the quests and
Same.
like been like, this is something I have to complete. But again, I played the game an outrageous amount of time,
Mhm.
right? Like my precursor to this question was I took weeks off in December. Most of my testing was in friend to friend games for Worlds, right? Was in friend to friend games or in the early access server. So like this was like the least amount of LOR that I played like ladder like ever. Um and I completed it fucking weeks ago. Like so it's like
Yeah.
that was the precursor to my question was I put in so much less time than I normally do. And I understand that I normally put in like way more time than anybody. But like it's wild to me that that people expect to finish it while playing like 20 minutes a day. If you play like 1 or 2 games a day, I don't know, should you complete it? It's an interesting hard question where like I feel like the answer is like probably not, right? Probably wants you to do a little bit more than that.
Mhm.
But I don't know.
I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the quest difficulty is like the real pain point for a lot of people, and I think that could be tuned, but length I think is fine. So
Mhm.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Okay.
I just think it's interesting because like we obviously play the game a ton. So like our perspective on it's going to be like very different. It was just interesting to me to have like the community sentiment, and having like the
Yeah.
I don't know, poll there. I think it was interesting.
All right. Well, I do need to wrap this up. We are well over time, so
Okay.
A little bit. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll leave a like, click or subscribe. We're gonna try to be there, but I don't know if in near future though, because I said patch is coming on 7th February, so maybe expect a little bit break from us, or we can maybe figure out something else out. So thank you guys so much for watching, and see ya in the next episode.